All people have a desire to live. Otherwise, he would not overcome all those hardships to be here, and after 99 attempts, he is finally here. The player stood opposite the high stained glass window and looked forward. This time, it will reach the end, the last 20th round. Really the guards of the 20th level of Galema. They were huge and seemingly very strong. This place is simply strewn with them. It seems they protect that door opposite him. For guards with staff in their hands, he is sure that the golems will not miss him, but you need to at least try. The battle began. The guard with all his appearance showed that he would not miss and applied his strength. At some point in the process of struggle, the player saw a mark of destruction. She rose over the guard of the guard. If you use the destruction mark on the enemy and conduct a successful attack by the enemy, will receive 100% more damage. It would be convenient. There are so many of them here that they crowd disturbing each other. It is worth applying force. Then, Knight of Destruction. He took out his weapon. There were a lot of golems, and pitch darkness came. They will not be able to see anything while the rune works. And then he attacked. Strength and power, not a second of peace. They beat in response. It was quickly difficult to navigate. Ice and fiery attacks. They arranged a carpet bombing for him. Then he will have to take advantage of the force of acceleration. It will be difficult to get into it after activation of force. Now the guy is very fast. But what is it? Then on the floor, he saw a bright blue glow. It was something like a magic circle, and he cannot evade. He was tightened in an ice whirlwind. Nearby was one of the guards. But the player has another power, Moonlight of Destruction. He escaped from the trap. It was a little on the verge. The guards were strong and terrible, with great opportunities. Even he will not be greeted if he meets such a face-to-face. This will not stop if he continues to respond to every attack. You need to quickly understand one entry. Then he activated the Moonlight of Destruction. Also, the power of the Bloody Moon. The battle was heavy and long. Finally, he figured out everything. The guards were defeated, although it was not easy. And now you need to see what they defended. He went to the door that the guards were so protected. The player went forward. Vidar. What is this place? It looks like some kind of temple. He probably needs to go through the door on the platform, or something should appear from there. Perhaps he will get there and find out. He went forward to the platform. He stood at her, and around the golden magic circle froze. Will he finally finish this game? It turned out to be a boss room, and so that there are 5 players there. Crap, can't be. A drop of sweat rolled over his face. The player approached the entrance to the boss's room. Further, it was indicated that since the conditions were not met, the player will disappear after 5 seconds. He was covered by rage. He realized that all this was planned specifically. The countdown went. He could not believe that everything could end like this. He was seized with a sense of panic and anger at the same time. 3 seconds. He looked at his hand and saw that his fingers began to disappear. He dissolved. Time is over. He disappeared. But the condition for activating the runes of the return of time was observed. He will return at the time before the start of the first round. He exhausted the limit of the use of the rune. Finally, the time has come. He returned to the beginning. A crowd of adults and children was looking forward to, and altogether counted time. New Year will come soon. He returned. Well, he stood in the middle of this noisy crowd and did not believe his eyes. He returned by the time when he had not yet been tightened into this game. Even though he reached the final 20th round, if he could only stop time right now. He squeezed his hand tightly into his fist. 1. He completely returned. This is still the last attempt. He is configured to bring this game to the end. To do this, you need to find 4 players to pass the final round. With whom it would be best to combine, he will decide later. Meanwhile, a group of young guys nearby celebrated the issue and reasoned what to do next. When asked by friends what he is going to do further, Yunming answered that he would be a gangster. His friends are shocked. He is not joking. After all, after one mistake in this area, you can simply stop existing. But he was adamant. Life is only one. Friends laughed with Yunmina and called the crazy. But it does not bother him little. He is the same as he wants to break all the connections after the release. He was not interested in these fools. But what will happen to that poor boy on the run after his release? His friends were interested in this. Yunmin cannot let him go, just because it is produced. Yunmin smiled maliciously. It is not for him to decide when it ends. Yunmin wants to play as much as possible with him. And then the guys turned in the other direction. saw him. The same boy on the run. Yes, this is definitely he. He appeared with the first second of the reference. Yun Min was surprised. After all, something in the guy is not so. Something has changed. He did not look like usual. The guys looked at him, and he at them. They wondered why he is longing to watch so fearlessly, but they asked Yun Min not to touch him. After all, now is the new year. There will still be time. No need to overshadow the holiday. And surprisingly, Yun Ming listened to his friends and decided not to touch the guy. He will let it go with it today. But only today. Suddenly they heard a voice. The voice from above said that people do not understand in what difficult situation they are, and they celebrate so calmly. The voice came from the lips of the beautiful angel that appeared from nowhere. The angel was a girl in white gold robes and who gnawed after people from above like behind monkeys in cells, and smiled. People did not believe their eyes. Real angel, how beautiful she is. And he also looked at her. I saw this 99 times, but still unpleasant. She grinned gloatingly. Insignificant little people. The angel was pleased with how they were amazed at her beauty, but let not hope that she will contact them. People should be able to hear her voice. So it was. The people began to get nervous and was outraged by her words in their direction. Most thought it was a cosplay on an angel or something like that. After all, this cannot be for real. People were indignant and shouted insults. It began to annoy her. She began to get angry, and then retaliation befell them. The man lost his life. All around were in a panic. But she did not pay attention to it. How they dared to contact her in such a manner. She is the highest being, deity. They themselves are to blame. They have no right to even ask angel questions, and even more so rude so much. Women, men, children were also scared by her anger. No one understood what was happening, and then she began to explain. The game will begin now. 20 rounds of the first day of each month. Players will be spiritually transferred to a new dimension to play this game. And people need to do only one thing. Perform tasks. If you manage to fulfill everything, then the player will return to his world with a reward until the next round. Everyone was interested in what would happen next. People thought that they could survive while they were completing tasks. But she dispelled this thought. Only half of the participants will be pardoned in the order of the completion of each task. This statement was a shock for everyone around. Why so? This is unfair. What is generally happening in the end? Then she added that the game would not pick up everyone. From all over the planet, people will participate only from 15 to 29 years old. And the guy stood and was thinking about the fact that when he was dragged into this game for the new year, he did not expect that he would pass it 100 times. Chaos began. People over 29 years old sighed with relief, and potential participants looked at them with hatred. The brawls began. She calculated the total number of participants in 1,801,020 dealer of the 290 people on the whole planet. The time has come to start the game. The angel looked at people with a tricky smile. The participants were in space where they did not see each other, and before spiritual transfer, they should have created the body, customization. There was only one chance to choose a body and nickname, so it was necessary to choose wisely. He decided what he would do as usual. His nickname is Gloomy Sickle. Gloomy Sickle appeared in a new dimension, in a new body, with renewed vigor. This happens for the 100th time. He uses this appearance with a Davidsat attempt, and now it seems to him that this is his sensitive body. There were others around. They examined the world around, considered new ones, their new bodies. Not everyone has changed themselves. Most did not even understand what could be done. At the same time, the Gloomy Sickle observed that some chose the best appearance. But if they had to have even a drop of brains, they would never have done this. This is another world. The world of survival is for the most adapted. If someone is too attractive, then more likely the rest will become a target. The main force here is, if someone perishes in this world, then it will die in that real. In any case, it's time to start. Here you go. And he is here. Kavan Yun Min, his enemy. He again chose a pumped-up body. The Gloomy Sickle smiled. It is in hand. Again, the Hooks saw an angel. She realized that everyone was happy with their avatars. She likes to look at the faces of fear covered in an expression. In total, there were 1,802,210 people. Here are all the people who were in Seoul. The angel laughed at those who thought that it was the only space. People are scattered on different planes, along with other angels that lead the round. Of course, they are not all here in one place. Before starting to start, she decided to give simple explanation. At first, it was necessary to think about the status window to think. Everyone did it. Before each, his window with personal indicators appeared. Name, strength, ranking class skills, of rune skills, and so on. Players studied their status windows. The angel continued to tell. If they reach the end and go through the 20th round, they will not only get free from the game for survival, but will also be able to fulfill one desire. One desire. Well, wow. Everyone was very excited, but there was a condition. The person must be the first to be fulfilled. Next, it was necessary to say the word inventory and look inside. The angel prepared a gift, a random fragment of the rune. This is what a gift a gloomy sickle saw inside his inventory. A random fragment of the rune is a one-time item. It can only be used at the first level, and this is the only item that will be at the very beginning. You can use it by thinking about the word, to use it to yourself, and holding it in your hands. Cold sweat rolled down the face of a gloomy sickle. Whatever the result, the players will have to accept it. After all, the essence of people is to hope for good luck, and he should be lucky this time. Well, the runes are over. It's time to start a real show. The angel clasped with 2 fingers with anticipation. The task of the first round is the victory of 100 goblins, every player. And then they saw goblins. They already fled towards the players. All the goblins seemed the same as in the games. People considered them with interest. Some talked that they could be abducted to test a new game. And now a real panic has begun. When everyone saw the general number of goblins who need to be won, 50,000 goblins against 10,000 people. In the same manga, the angel stood and smirked angrily. They will have to fight to the end, victory or defeat. She really liked it. The goblins were evil with red burning eyes. They were ready to attack. While everyone was screaming, a gloomy sickle headed towards the goblins. All were struck by his courage. And he begins the battle. Out of the group, the first impression is very important. The gloomy sickle attacked and attacked. He needs to put his presence in their minds so that not a single annoying midge even thought of approaching. A demonstration of power is needed. But the most important thing is to attract the attention of that creature. Angel. She looked at him, and the gloomy sickle decided to arrange a short performance. Goblins were approaching. They fled right at him, and the gloomy sickle in several movements disarmed and neutralized them all. The players were delighted with the gloomy sickle and his skills. Meanwhile, the number of goblins increased. Everyone understood that they should also have the strength to win, even if it's not as easy as a gloomy sickle. And the battle began with renewed vigor. They are approaching again. There are many of them, but everyone tried as best they could. After that, no one perceived what happened as a game. There is only one thing that they can now think about: survival. After the battle with the goblins, everyone realized that it would be only more complicated and more complicated. Their instinct will survive them to control them no matter what, and make them run away. For the first time, the gloomy sickle also chose this path, without waiting for the end of the battle with the goblins. And only for the second time, the gloomy sickle realized that it was pointless to run away from this field. The players died one by one. The gloomy sickle turned away. This is not the first time, but always not easy. For a modern person, even small animals, the destruction of the goblin would not offend the destruction of the goblin. But in order to survive in this game, you need to overcome this. And this is essentially only the beginning of the game. The angel stood and calmly watched the battle. There were many wounded. Everyone shouted and asked for help. She found it entertaining. Let them be the size of a child, but if they attack everything at once, then no one can do anything. And they have daggers. However, who is this person? Her gaze lingered on a gloomy sickle. He has already destroyed 70 goblins from his 100. Amazing. She was angry with an idiotic system that hides all the information about the player besides the progress of completing the task. She looked at the screen with a disrespect. In any case, this is not important. This hurt her pride as the highest being. Direct these lower people, but seeing such a special person, it seems that it can bring her a little pleasure. The gloomy Serpa remained only 25 goblins until the target is fulfilled, and he has already raised his level. The gloomy sickle continued to win one by one. Who is next? Gloomy's sickle looked with rage directly into the faces of these evil creatures. No one dared to come up. Apparently he can rest. They were already afraid of him. The status window showed that the Gloomy sickle has the 4th level. Statistics increased, and there were 6 points of characteristics. For increasing the level, 2 free points are given. I put everything in dexterity. This affects the speed of attack and movement. With such an increase in growth, a Gloomy sickle could draw the attention of the angels to himself, which was required. He should already finish him. The index finger of the Gloomy sickle sent the goblins to the crowd and offered to come closer, but no one dared, and the Gloomy sickle went the first to them. What power! Gloomy sickle scattered goblin in all directions. He won again an increase in level. All 100 goblins are destroyed. The first round of the Gloomy sickle is hung. The first round is completed without much effort and problems. The Gloomy sickle frantically destroyed the goblins in order to attract the attention of the angels, but he also received the first place for completing the assignment in the current area, and in all regions. It is better to complete the tasks in each round as soon as possible. Top 3 players are given a reward based on their position. As a reward for the first place, the Gloomy sickle received a ticket for weapons of the lowest rank. For the first place in all regions, the prize was a chest for choosing a special reward. The Gloomy sickle first uses a weapon ticket to get a reward for the current area. The choice of weapons was small, but the Gloomy sickle was grateful that he received him so early, and chose a stylet. He threw his old weapons. The chest, with a choice of Gloomy sickle, decided to keep it so far. Opening his status window, the Gloomy sickle noticed the title of which has not seen before. The Last Traveler in Time. He never met him over the past 99 attempts, and I decided to use the rune. He took her in his hands and thought about it. A run of time is received. The resulting rune will be automatically engraved on the player's body, like all the runes received. The remains of the obtained rune are present in the player's soul, so it was said, due to the special properties of the rune of Gravarok, failed. And then the Gloomy sickle thought about the fact that if he could use it again, it would mean that he could return an infinite number of times. According to the remnants of the rune of the Gloomy sickle engraved in the soul, it was identified as a traveler in time making 100 travels, hence the title of the Last Traveler in Time. But what does it mean? The Gloomy sickle was puzzled. In this game, the titles stand over the runes. The titles are much stronger than runes, but it is more difficult to get them. If desired, he could resurrect with full health, and after death, stay in place for a minute. Resurrection is a unique skill of priests, and even he restores only 30% of health after activation. But it is this resurrection that gives Gloomy Serpa full health. The eyes of the Gloomy Sulfur lit up. He just got something incredible. It is always good to have such an ace in the sleeve. The Gloomy sickle changed the privacy of the status to the private, so that no one can see. It's time to end the quest. Gloomy sickle lazily stretched out. He hoped that Yun Mina had everything. After all, he still needs him. Here he is. The Gloomy sickle saw Huan Yun Mina. He was fine. It seems he will survive. The angel was getting more boring. People almost equalized in number with goblins. This was her mistake. Perhaps you should add fun. And then the bodies of the fallen began to disappear, both people and goblins. No one understood what was happening. Goblins continued to advance, and the angel suggested 50,000 points. Now there was more motivation for victory. Hyrule again rushed into battle. The number of successfully achieved the goal grew, 1,000 to 3. The angel watched with pleasure, and a Gloomy sickle with fatigue. Finally, the number of reached the goal was 5,143 people. This is the right amount. The goblins are gone. The round is over. And then the angel reported that only half were able to complete the task. Since it all ended, the rest should disappear. These are the rules somehow. Shocked players began to evaporate, and they were in shock. I was begging to ask, but no one listened to them. The rest were rather gloomy, those who stayed. They understood that they could expect the same outcome ahead. Further, the angel notified that this round was completed and expressed the hope that they would continue to try even more. Before leaving, she needs to count everyone. According to the results of the first round in all regions, the first place was taken by a Gloomy sickle, and he received all his awards weapons of a chest and 1,000 gold. This money can be used in the store, but only from the 10th level. Surprised glances and whispering catching a Gloomy sickle on himself. Now everyone knows that he is the first. I could not believe that the gloomy sickle had first place in all regions, and an angel. She stared thoughtfully at him, and I decided to ask him a question. This question was why the gloomy sickle was so strong. He received a special rune, and then the gloomy sickle realized that she could not look out the window of his status. The angel lied what could, and he just wants to check the gloomy sickle. Of course, the gloomy sickle did not believe her. It's funny. He asked the angel to make a request. Allegedly, the reward for the first issue is not enough. He needs to lure her. The group of the remaining stared at him. Well, arrogance. The angel was furious. How he dares to demand something. Without trembling, the gloomy sickle announced that he was hoping for more. It is necessary to get something better because he does not like these awards. In incredible rage was an angel. As a simple, miserable little people dares to ask her and talk to her like that. She was wildly annoyed, and she wanted to deprive the gloomy sickle of her head. Unfortunately, it turned out to have already used its ability. It is necessary to figure out how to now take revenge on this impudent, arrogant, gloomy sickle. Suddenly, the idea came to the head of the angel. She knows what to give gloomy sickle. Then she invited him to talk in private. The rest should wait a couple of minutes. The angel led the gloomy sickle behind him. The rest patiently waited behind, and they thought whether she would really give him the best reward. Has the bargain with the angel worked? Maybe they also asked for a different reward. Inadvertently standing aside, players discussed how good the angel would give a gloomy sickle. Surely, this is because he is the first such privileges. Suddenly, the gloomy sickle looked around and saw Yunmina. He seems to recognize him too for a moment. They went further into the forest. Angel and gloomy sickle. She pissed him to come closer to her. The gloomy sickle agreed. The angel was still noticeably annoyed. How to change the angel what the system issued, even if she could not make exceptions for the sake of a gloomy sickle. It would be worthwhile to accept what they give. She will show the gloomy sickle what they do with greedy bugs. Then the angel decided to deprive the gloomy sickle of life as soon as they go beyond the stone. Of course, there is a chance that everything will not go according to plan. If she ruins the player of her own free will, without the ability, other players can rebel. In this case, people can make an angel take responsibility, and this cannot be allowed. Therefore, you have to do without extra eyes. When the angel and the gloomy sickle went behind the stone, she grinned gloomily. He should have been silent, and nothing would have happened. While the angel asked the question of the desired reward, suddenly a gloomy sickle attacked her first. It was a blow to the blow. Gloomy sickle was fast and dexterous. The angel did not have time to fight back. The gloomy sickle stood over the fallen angel. How could this happen? She was shocked, and her rage knew no boundaries. Turning around, the angel saw that the gloomy sickle was gone there. He disappeared, and she did not notice how the gloomy sickle was already standing behind her. He attacked her and tried to deprive the wings. The angel could not escape. She was very painful. The gloomy sickle knew that she would have done the same with him and would also mock. He had no pity for these creatures. Trying to kill his angel began to scream. Yes, as a gloomy sickle dares to generally show such disrespect for her, holding a gloomy sickle over her head said that he knew that the angel wanted to destroy him with a dagger that was hidden in the wings. Yes, the gloomy sickle guessed. The angel wanted to take his life, but she tried to justify herself, and the gloomy sickle did not believe her. Flying is useless. After all, Brielle is written on his face. Brielle was very surprised by the fact that the gloomy sickle knows her name, but he did not give her an answer from where. The next instant, the gloomy sickle took out his weapon. Brielle was scared and asked why he was. It was obvious. Of course, Brielle began to threaten gloomy sickle, that she can destroy it with one movement of the finger. Useless. Gloomy sickle knew that Brielle no longer had the skill. She did not expect this either. How does he know all this? Having clasped her teeth, Brielle continued to erupt the threats. Does the gloomy sickle think that other angels will forgive him this? Again, bye. The gloomy sickle knew that all the angels are selfish creatures, and no one will deal with if Brielle disappears. Then she began to bargain. After all, this will not bring him benefit. By any means, Brielle persuaded the gloomy sickle to spare her. She promised to tell everything that he would want about the game, if only he gave a chance. But gloomy sickle does not need it. He knows everything himself. Torture. The gloomy sickle has already pulled out of Brielle everything he wanted. How they live. What are their goals? Previously, in past times. And the gloomy sickle knows that they are only pawns, and their duty is only to direct the players. Brielle looked in amazement at the gloomy sickle. What? How? When he found out all. But she did not have time to finish. Gloomy Sickle struck Brielle with his weapon. She disappeared. There was a message that the Gloomy Sickle became the first player who destroyed the angel. He received the title of the first assassin of an angel, and as a reward received the blood of an angel. Also, the Gloomy Sickle received the rune of a massacre as a reward. The rune is automatically implanted into the user's body. Everything is as usual. The rune spun above the palm of the Gloomy Sickle while he was considering. These awards are received by the first player that destroyed the angel. His new title gave him a new advantage. In a battle with the entities of the holy type, all his characteristics were doubled. At the 13th regression, the Gloomy Sickle learned about the awards. Since they go to one person, each can be compared with a unique object. The rune of the massacre increases the characteristics by 1% to the end of the battle for the destruction of the enemy. Angels will be surprised when they find out that the Gloomy Sickle is already this rune. And, yes, how he could forget about the most important thing, another reward. The main reason to destroy the angel is his blood. Gloomy Sickle becomes a reaper, sworn enemies of angels. At the 10th level, all players can choose a class. There are 30 different classes, and get them quite simple. Firstly, you need to find an item that allows you to change the class. Typically, these are obtained during hunting or by compliance with simple conditions, but there are exceptions. There are classes of class shifts that can be obtained by only one person while in a certain environment and observing specific conditions. Of course, classes from such items are absolutely at a different level. The bonus characteristics of the rune of the option class and more. Everything is gorgeous. And even so, Gloomy Sickle again, the last round did not pass here, since you need to try to get first place in all regions. So a Gloomy Sickle can choose one of the proposed awards. Now, it is most important for him to raise the level to the 10th to change the class. Selects a triple multiplier of experience. The multiplier will be applied automatically on the second round. This is the last chance. There is nowhere to run, the Gloomy Sickle. He stood and looked at Brielle's body. It is necessary to become stronger at any cost. The first round is over. The souls of players will return to the original bodies. The second round will begin on February 1st. Yunming moved. This is a place. This is Bosengak. What happened? People around were lying and recovering. They seemed to be shut off before that. Some even seemed to be just a dream. But it was not a dream. It was clear on the clinic clock that time passed. Everyone around has a terrible head and the whole body. Yunmin found his friends, who also had already woke up. Until now, some thought that it was a dream. Only Yunming was not sure of that. He looked at people and saw that they also recall that place and battle with goblins. It was not a dream. Now it is definitely clear, and that they will have to return on the 1st of February is also clear. There were people who did not wake up, no matter how hard they tried to wake them, and at some point, everyone realized that they would not wake up. They fell in battle. They did not breathe, and their pulse did not feel. People knew that these were those who did not survive the game. Everything was said by an angel. This means that everyone who did not wake up on February will not fall into the second round. And there were a lot of such. Only half survived. Everyone was afraid of the fact that it would most likely be so in the next round, and in the subsequent ones. Some of the players considered it cool. It does not matter you were born with a silver lodge in your mouth or some other everyone wants to survive. It will not be possible to whine any more cruel life. Everyone will receive merit, and according to their strength. Someone could not move away from the shock and complained that he did not have time to live a full life, and I did not have time to do so much. A group of friends remembered that before disconnecting they saw a guy on the run, but now he was not. Will he not go to the second round either, although it was expected? Such a wimp would not stand it. But who is it? A guy with silver armor on his shoulders. Where he got this tasteless outfit. Status window. Yes, it opened in front of Huan by Yun Min. This cannot be. Reversely opened. Everyone could only see their window. It can be used in real life, but will skills and objects work? It is worth trying. Yun Mines raised a stone from the ground and crushed him in a fist like fragile cookies. The stone sprinkled like sand. Well, wow. It worked. Wonderful. So many opportunities in the real world are open to the players. Kavan Yunming smiled. This is great. These abilities are now very useful to him. This morning, it happened unimaginable. And this was talked about in the news of television channels. About 10,000 citizens lost consciousness during the ceremony of the bell ringing in the Bosengak Pavilion in the Chono area. Next on the air show the video, the angel soaring in the sky and her conversation with citizens. After the angel's speech, all people lose consciousness, and the police are trying to understand the reason, but without success. About 10,000 citizens lost consciousness after a conversation with this mysterious girl. In the reports, the police claim that people from 15 to 29 years old lost consciousness. This happened not only here, but also in other 128 countries. Meanwhile, the gloomy sickle in his real body looked at the telephone screen and read the news. Half of the people woke up, the other half did not survive. Heart arrest officially. Celebrities, ordinary people, poor rich, all died. For the first time in history, the olive percent of the population was destroyed. The real problem is now different. The survivors are now called players, and their number is growing. Their possibilities are also transferred to this world. So far, of course, there are no people with high skills, so the effect is not so noticeable. But this is for now. But as soon as the players increase the levels, they will become extraordinary creatures. All this was not joking of the gloomy sickle. He saw it earlier. This will lead to the birth of live weapons. Neither power structures or any other weapons will cope with this. And the gloomy sickle does not intend to sit in the back of the world while plunging into chaos. Otherwise, the Earth will be humiliated until the end of the 20th round. There is only one path, players' control, through a stunning force, the forces of the gloomy sickle. Of course, this will cause differences from his past lives. The gloomy sickle also recalled that at least 5 players are required to open the boss room. He has a couple of candidates, and there are ideas how to attract them to their side. But time has not yet come, since there is a more important thing right now, and the gloomy sickle headed forward along an empty street. Approaching the right house and rising to the second floor, the gloomy sickle opened the door of his apartment and entered. The apartment was empty and dark at first glance. Looking into the kitchen, the gloomy sickle realized that for dinner of fast, cook noodles since there is nothing more, as always. After a short study of the kitchen, the gloomy sickle approached the door of another room. Opening the door and going into the room, the gloomy sickle saw the guy sleeping on the bed. It was his brother, and he slept quite firmly. And this is despite the fact that his older brother did not return home. Smiling, the gloomy sickle leaned over his brother, whose Voneri Ryu won. The younger brother was only in the 3rd year of study in high school, and thank God he was not a player. Then the gloomy sickle looked at the wall, where there was a photo of their family, he, his brother, and father. Everyone smiled cheerfully and held balloons in their hands. Parents of the guys died in a car disaster, and the next photo on the nightstand was already without parents, only Ryu 1 and Ryu Min. The biggest change is that gloomy sickle has become the main and only defender of Voni. There was a patch on the hand of Ryu Vao, which was slightly peeled off from a small wound, and Ryu Ming returned it to its place, the wound again, and he knows where. After this movement, Ryu 1 woke up and jumped on the bed, looking at his brother Hyun, how he loved to call him. It was only 6 in the morning. Why Hyun woke Ryu 1 so early? The youngest rubbed his eyes and looked at his watch. With one powerful jerk, Hyun tore off the blanket with Ryu Vao. After all, now there is no time to sleep. Ryu Vaughn was wondering what happened. Hyun ordered his brother first to change. It was time for them to go. All explanations will be later. The sleepy Ryu 1 did not understand what was happening. He wanted to sleep longer instead of looking at the dawn. Why go somewhere? With a formidable voice, Ryu Ming ordered Ryu Wan to obey him. The brother was frightened, but obeyed. What is happening? Ryu 1 thought that Hyun just went to the bell-ringing ceremony. He did not know what happened later, but the older brother rushed him. All conversations are only on the way. A couple of minutes later, Hyun and Ryu went along the same deserted narrow street. Ryu 1 did not understand why his brother was so serious and tense. Then Hyun asked Ryu 1 that he really did not know what was happening in the world. But Ryu did not know, and he did not know why Hyun was so serious and that he was in general while he was sleeping. Brother invited him to watch the main news on the internet, and after that, Ryu won the phone in his hands. He was taken aback. His face was transformed. Yes, Ryu won this news. Ryu Ming brushed briefly as the angel came and took people to play another world, more precisely, their souls, and the very essence of the game. The worst suspicions of Ryu 1 were confirmed. His brother Hyun was also among these people, and he found out that Hyun hardly returned, destroying 100 goblins in the first round. The main thing is that Hyun is not wounded. This is what was most worried about Ryu Vaughn. Thank God everything was in order with his brother. Ryu 1 was worried about it. Brother Hyun Ryu 1 remembered his parents who rested with the world and reminded his brother that they are the most dear people in the world and they have no one else except each other. Also, Ryu 1 remembered the children's and how Hyun supported him and raised him after the death of his parents. He did everything that he could raise his younger brother to his feet. And yes, of course, Ryu 1 knew that in Ryu, a mind there is more inner power than anyone. It is enough to fill the void left by the parents. But the internal power and destruction of goblins are different things. Even the younger brother of Hyun Ryu 1 was concerned that his brother had not so much physical strength. But Ryu Ming tried to calm him down because in that place there is a skill system and physical strength is not so important. But even if so, Ryu 1 was not convinced to the end. Then Hyun told him that in that world he looks different than here, and if he wants to know more, then he must go with him. All this situation and misunderstandings were earnestly angry with Ryu Vaughn, and he refused to go anymore without explanation. At first, he wants to know everything. Ryu's gaze fell on a patch on the hand of Ryu 1. Hyun calmly reported to his brother that they were going to the guy who was mocking the Ryu Vol to Bong Tae-gu. This statement made Ryu 1 be covered with small evaporates. He was very scared. Turning to his brother, Hyun looked at Ryu Valya with tenderness. If Bong Tae-gu gets Ryu, then Hyun will deal with this. Ryu's face was in a surprise. How does Ryu Min know all this? After all, Ryu 1 thought that no one knew it. The situation is quite unpleasant, and Ryu did not want it to be noticeable. After all, Hyun has enough worries, and in principle it was embarrassed to complain. But Ryu Ming does not think so. He apologized to Ryu Vaughn for not helping him before. After all, he did not know. For the first time, Hyun recognized the truth after returning from the first round in the first regression, a few hours after. Then, after the game, Ryu Ming was sleeping, and Ryu 1 went for a walk. But he did not even pay attention to this, nothing unusual. Ryu Mina woke up from sleeping a phone call. We searched for the guardian of Ryu 1. Ryu Mina was asked to come to the hospital. Hyun's eyes widened with horror when he heard it. He rushed out of the house with a burnt. Ryu Vaughn returned to the full. Wrapped one after he was beaten by Bong Tae-gu. He was so frightened and lost. Hyun could not calmly look at his brother. But at that time, Ryu Ming was just a weak idiot who could not protect his younger brother Ryu Vol. But Hyun will never allow anyone to do this again. Now, he has knowledge and strength. And finally, Hyun and Ryu 1 approached the offender's house. From the inside, it was heard that there was something bad in the garage. They heard screams. This scoundrel Bong Tae-gu mocked someone else. Yes, and demanded from them to bring 200,000 won. He rudely mocked the guys. This guy Bong Tae-gu was big and angry. His eyes burned with hatred of all living things. But he was the same age as Ryu 1. On the sidelines is the company of the henchman Bong Tae-gu. They stood and watched him mocking the guys. It is not surprising that all the Sanbei from another school resumes in front of him. The guys were afraid of Bong Tae-gu and understood that they should not joke with him. It always ended badly. Greatly rubbing his neck, Bong Tae-gu announced the money that these losers were supposed to bring. He wanted to buy a motorcycle for himself. The villain Bong Tae-gu was interested in whether there is still a place where you can get the money. He suggested that the henchmen think carefully about it. One of them suddenly remembered something. Boy on the run, tall with curly hair. Why not call him? Naturally, they talked about Ryu Ven. Bong Tae-gu grinned eagerly. He was just going to call him today. Ryu should get a hat for the new year. Everyone thought that it would work and they would get the money. But Bong Tae-gu was convinced that Ryu was a beggar and did not have a penny. And he lives almost in the barn. And Ryu Vao has no parents. Ryu lives with his brother. This is what they know. And then Bong Tae-gu looked at his front door. In the doorway stood people whom he did not expect to see at all. Ryu 1 and his brother Ryu Ming. The noise near the door was originally frightened by Bong Tae-gu, but now he realized that these are just another miserable losers. He began to scream at Ryu 1, insulting him and his older brother. Ryu himself stood pressing against the wall with fear and was afraid to move. He hastily apologized to Bong Tae-gu. Bon Tae-gyu also drew attention to Ryu-mina standing nearby, and he was not at all afraid. The expression on his face, on the contrary, was annoyed by Bon Tae-gyu. The sullen Bon Tae-gyu turned to Ryu, trying to find out who he dragged with him. He saw Ryu-mina for the first time, but Ryu-ming called himself boldly looking into the face of Bon Tae-gyu. His smile did not bode well. Rubbing his fists, Bon Tae-gyu reminded Ryu-won that he should not knock on him, and that he would have to pay for it. They both of them, and his brother. The friends of Bon Tae-gyu began to survive the brothers from all sides. It was funny that they would have to fight with these weaklings. And at that moment, the first of them struck a blow from Hyun's fist. None of them expected such insolence. The guys again tried to attack Ryu-mina, but also failed again. One by one, they fell without strength. The situation was amused by Bon Tae-gyu. Hyun in his eyes was a simple botan that studied for boxing somewhere. He also dared to come to him. Slowly, Bon Tae-gyu approached Ryu-min. He absolutely did not see any threat in him, an ordinary boy. Bon Tae-gyu, in addition to everything else, greatly exceeded Hyun in weight. With a smile on his whole face, Hyun noticed that probably Bon Tae-gyu does not follow the news. Bon Tae-gyu grinned. Why does he need any news? He brought his fist towards Ryu-mina. However, Ryu-ming was too fast and dexterous. He resembled a flying squirrel. Ryu-ming easily left the blows. Yes, Bon Tae-gyu is simply furious and does not understand how Hyun manages to slip away from him. At that moment, Ryu-ming pointed out that if Bon Tae-gyu watched the news, he would not come close to him, and again hit in response. Bon Tae-gyu was defeated from the first blow. Well, psycho. This seemed like a hyung for those around him now. Bon Tae-gyu stood covering his face with his hand, and still continues to pour threats towards Ryu-mina. Having removed his hand from his face, Bon Tae-gyu saw a tooth lying on her, and as if he had gone crazy with anger, Bon Tae-gyu growled. He intends to destroy Ryu-mina. But the next attack towards Ryu-mina did not bring Bon Tae-gyu success. The guys are shocked, as someone could defeat Bon Tae-gyu. Yes, and such a wimp as brother Ryu won. Despite this, Bon Tae-gyu cannot calm down. He needs to get only once, and he attacks Hyun again, and it is necessary. Again, without the slightest success, as if nothing had happened, by putting his hands in his pockets. All this did not tire him a drop. Even after so many regression, Ryu-ming cannot forget the emotions of the experience on the day when Ryu-won returned home from the hospital in bandages. When Ryu-ming looks at this scoundrel Bon Tae-gyu, then this hell passes again and again. Now Bon Tae-gyu is already begging Ryu-mina about mercy. What a pity. However, Hyun does not feel the slightest pity for Bon Tae-gyu. His brother Ryu-won should not be offended. Approaching Bon Tae-gyu, Hyun takes his hand and breaks his fingers. He does not scream in his voice. The guys from the Vatagi Bon Tae-gyu run away through the reverse, and Ryu-won, turning their faces to the wall because it cannot look at what his brother Hyun does. Ryu-min himself gives Bon Tae-gyu the last instructions, recalling what will happen if Bon Tae-gyu once again touches his younger brother. Bon Tae-gyu promises to be obedient. Having committed retribution to Ryu-ming is leaving. Ryu-won behind him puzzled. What just happened? He is interested in how Hyun did it. Where did he get so much power? Perhaps Hyun studied combat arts. These are the thoughts of Ryu-won. But no. Hyun tells his brother that players can use their abilities in the real world. This is probably it. And then Ryu-ming decided to show Ryu-won what he has in mind. And he took out his weapons from the game. The knife appeared directly from the air. Fascinating spectacle. So even weapons from another world can be called up. So Ryu-won realized that those movements in the garage were also by force from another world. When Hyun dodged Bon Tae-gyu's blows, the whole thing was in the Venine glasses of dexterity, just like in games. Amazing! Ryu-won was interested in what will happen if the Hyung increases its level even more, but his brother did not know this. After all, he has not yet reached such a level. It was of course a lie. But Ryu-won cannot be known anymore. Voni should not know that Ryu-min's a regressor. On the 11 regression, Hyun told all Ryu-won and some player abducted him. Of course, Ryu-ming took revenge at that time, but Ryu should not pass through this because of him again. Well, in future fights between the players, you need to be ready to protect Ryu-won. First of all, and the less you know the better in this case. Suddenly, Hyun suggested Ryu-won to go to the grocery store because they were both hungry. Ryu-won agreed. The brothers entered the nearest store, and Hyun headed for an ATM. Ryu 1 called him out. Of a quick-made noodles was in a completely different side. For something more expensive, they did not have money. It was usually not. And then Ryu Min inserted his card into the ATM. There were 133,000 won on his savings. Having chosen the necessary options, Hyun removed 100,000 won. Ryu 1 was surprised. Why so much cash? The brother did not give him an answer and offered to take something out of food. The department near which Ryu Ming stood with expensive products. Ryu 1 was not sure that they could afford it. It cost at least 5,000 won. Hyun allowed his brother today to take everything that he wanted. Now, after all, the new year. They should not eat fast-cooking noodles, Ryu 1 thought. Will they have enough money for a living after this purchase? But Hyun instructed. Then Ryu 1, with burning eyes, picked up a pig's lead breast with paste of red chili. He wanted to try her for so long. And then Ryu Ming surprised Ryu Vaughn even more, suggesting that he go to a normal restaurant. Eat, for example, Korean beef. Beef is too expensive. Ryu 1 rejoiced at the pork breast. But Hyun told his brother that he would buy him so much meat soon that he will not be able to eat him all, and he would even get tired of him. With great pleasure, Ryu 1 enjoyed the bought food. He did not eat this for a very long time. Sincerely thanking his brother Ryu, he reminded him that he seemed to be going somewhere. Hyun ordered his brother to wait for him here. A few minutes later, Ryu Ming returned and laid on the table a pen and a stack of lottery tickets. Ryu 1 was horrified. Spend the remnants of money on this. But Hyun did not share his brother's concern. There were 20 lottery tickets. What 20? Ryu 1 stubbornly did not understand why to spend 100,000 there on some lottery tickets. Hyun, after all, cannot even be sure that he will win. Although Ryu himself seemed to be sure, he noted the necessary numbers on all lottery tickets. I also did not understand this, Ryu. Why right away and that's it? Then Ryu Ming explained to him that he noted the winning numbers, and with a smile, looked at him. 1,049 lottery. Ryu Ming and Ryu Vol sat at the table and watched the broadcast. The prize draw began. Ryu 1 was sure that they screwed up and lost 100,000 won. Grinding nails. Ryu 1 thought that it would be better if they bought food for all this money. They began to explain the numbers of the lucky ones who won. The announcer pronounced the numbers of those who won, and now, this is madness. Ryu 1 saw that they and Ryu Min took first place. Ryu 1 cried with happiness. Can't be. Ryu 1 thought it was just a dream, but Hyun confirmed that this is all in fact. They won. Ryu 1 shouted with joy without worrying about the neighbors. For the first time, Ryu Ming was also so happy. Perhaps even shouted, but the brother is not necessary to know about it. After each regression of the Ryu, the mind needs to be quickly accumulated. Because already 9, pouring millions of people have died. The economy has shaken, and the trade in objects between players that in the future will only become more actively carried out in cash. While Ryu 1 was happy to win, and thought how much he would be given to Hyun with emotion watched him. Standing in front of the bank, Ryu Ming was no longer nervous. After all, this is not his first win. It was already 100 times. Inside the bank, Ryu Ming turned to an employee to get his prize. The employee congratulated him, but secretly surprised him. Ryu Ming looks like a student. Ryu Ming called the place of purchase of a ticket. The bank employee knew that there were 115 tickets Ruru Mindsmen to Yeonhu branch. To the employee were ordered to count all the buyers there, VIP clients. Since the bulk of the winning was from there, he asked Ryu Mina to wait a couple of minutes. A few minutes later, Director of the Bank of Yunho approached Ryu Min. He congratulated the lucky man and offered to go with him. Director of the Hangul Yunho and Ryu Min went to the office. The secretary at some point even thought that Hyun was the son of the director. Then Yunho's hassle instructed the secretary to surround the winner with comfortable conditions. This is the same person who won 100 tickets. The girl to secretly be nervous. She stood in front of the director and Ryu Min with her hands in front of her. She invited him to sit down and also drink something. But Ryu Ming only wanted to take his winnings as soon as possible. First, it was necessary to check all the tickets. The secretary took them from Ryu Mina and began checking. She could not believe her. They were all with the same numbers. He is a magician, or how? After the audit, it was confirmed that all his 100 tickets took first place. The reward of Ryu Mina amounted to about 22.5 billion out. Saying these words, the secretary even sweated. What a lot of money. Of course, after paying tax, Hyun received about 15 billion out. First of all, he found a house for himself. And in the evening, he opened an exchange account. It was expected that Bitcoin would grow by 5% next month. Therefore, he planned to invest in the exchange after a contribution to Bitcoin. And today, Ryu Ming and Ryu Vaughn were already in a new house. The house was big and cool. The house was rented, and this fact surprised Ryu Vaughn because they would have enough money to buy it. Then Hyun informed his brother that he no longer has this money. All the remaining 14 billion Hyun invested in Bitcoin. Ryu Won was in shock, but Hyun convinced his brother that he thought everything very carefully and is sure of success. In addition, Ryu Ming lied that he saw a set of numbers in a dream. I heard a lot about such people. These numbers must be remembered. It can be victorious numbers in the lottery. In fact, Hyun would not be able to forget these numbers. After all, it was already 100 times. After the conversation, the brothers began to collect things, for moving them already today. Having pierced the wall of the house for Yun Ming with his fist, that to put glasses into force was his most lounger solution in his life. Moreover, Kavan Yun Min received a rune that doubles. He continued with rapture to destroy the wall. Yun Min is damn lucky with the rune. Even Tyson would envy to see the blows of such a force. This should be enough for the test. Why not fight right now? And Yun Min went to the house, Ryu Mina that is, Hyun. But no one opened. Yun Min remembered Ryu Mina's contemptuous gaze in his direction. Yun Min will not forget this. He will strangle him with his own hands when he meets. And then Yun Min continued to hide at the door. There was no answer. Is Ryu Ming hiding? Even if they are both now players, a loser will always be a loser. Probably Ryu Mina is not at home. Yun Ming pressed his ear to the door, trying to hear at least a small move inside the apartment. Suddenly, a neighbor went down from the top floor and turned to Yun Min. He was interested in what he does on the threshold of someone else's house. The neighbor introduced himself as the owner of the house and thought that Yun Min came to visit a friend. Then the neighbor told Yun Min that the guy who lived here was Sija, unknown where. Yun Min was furious. Ryu Min simply washed off. Wow. What a high building, before which stood Ryu with Hyun. In this building there was their new house, the apartment they rented. With the admiration of the child, he looked at this splendor of Ryu. He could not believe that they would live here. At the entrance, there was even a rotating door. Wow, and the entrance to the passes. The guard checked the identity of everyone. Rising already in the elevator to his floor, Ryu Won generally knew that it was a gorgeous place. They reached the 43rd floor. Wow. Their apartment was also large and chic. The total area of the apartment sodded about 300 square meters. The apartment was incredible. Ryu Vaughn seemed to be too big for two people. How much Ryu paid for her? A contribution of 5 billion won and a monthly rental of 22 million won, as the Hyun explained. Rent of more than 15 million. But recently, the heart of Ryu Vaughn trembled from the fact that he spent 5,000 won on food in a grocery store. According to Ryu Vaughn, it was possible to spend a little less money on housing. Ryu Ming, on the contrary, pointed out that the more the better, the more security is to pay. And this is important now. The first day of each month, players fall into hypnolexia. These are short-term bouts of drowsiness, the manifestation of narcolepsy. And at this time, the players are most vulnerable, before emergency agencies, fires, and so on, and before the assassins of which other players hired. Therefore, players should carefully prepare by this time the safest place in order to move to another world. It makes no difference, good or bad, in another world. If you die in the real world, this is the end. The new apartment was very cool, but Ryu Vaughn is uncomfortable that he rejoices at the new place, given that soon Hyuna will have to fight in the game again. Ryu Won apologized to his brother, but Ryu Ming assured his brother that it was not worth hanging his nose and that he would definitely return at the end of the next round. After that, Ryu Ming and Ryu Won decided to go down to the 20th floor to eat in a restaurant. Suddenly, Ryu Mina rang the phone. It was Kavan Yun Min. Clear. He knows that Ryu Min has moved. You just need to ignore it. In real life, they are unlikely to cross, but in another world, it is quite possible. Without answering Ryu, Min put the phone in his jacket pocket and forgot about it, for now. The day passed after moving to a new apartment. Waking up Ryu, Ming saw that Ryu won somewhere. He ordered rice cakes and was going to pick them up. He did not order them before. This was surprising from the point of view of Hyun. Of course, regression does not mean that everything will be exactly as before, but before he had never bought these cakes. When asked by Ryu Mina, why do they have these cakes, Ryu won that, since they just drove them to treat their neighbors, to make a good impression. Then Hyun decided that it was better for them to do it together, and he went to dress. And now they are all ready with a plate of rice cakes standing near the first door of the neighbors and calling. The door was opened by a very cute neighbor. They talked a little. Ryu Ming and Ryu Vaughn handed her cakes, and they reported that they drove only yesterday and live in the apartment 4302. The brothers went on. Ryu Ming and Ryu went from the apartment to the apartment by handing out cakes and communicating with their neighbors. There is only one apartment left. It was a penthouse who immediately occupied the 44th and 45th floors. Someone lives there very rich. Perhaps some kind of celebrity or son of the head of a large company lives here. No one opened the first time. Hyun and Ryu Won were about to leave. Suddenly the door opened. There was a very beautiful girl with a guy standing behind, and he looked like a guard. This is a well-known actress with a Rin. Incredible. The actress was beautiful like an angel. Ryu Ming and Ryu Won stood in front of her door. Suddenly, the guy came forward. He was sure that Ryu Min and Ryu won the next annoying fans. How could they get here? He had to explain to him that Ryu Min and Ryu won their new neighbors from the lower floor, and they just wanted to introduce themselves and bring cakes as a presentation. The guy refused the cakes and answered at once, and for the COA Rin, supposedly, she does not love this, and went to the elevator. After the elevator door opened with, and Rin silently went forward. It seemed very rude to the brothers, but they did not focus on this. But Ryu Vaughn seems to be crazy about beauty with a Rin. Ryu Ming did not share his delight. He did not hear anything about her before. Rin herself sat on the couch and read the news. The news was not very comforting. The film industry befell the crisis. Many celebrities died. What happens to this world? So she received a message from her friend that Sambigong with Jean died. He took a lot of care about Si and Rin and her girlfriend. Tomorrow, they will go together to honor his memory. Even those who are more popular with A Rin did not return from the first round. If it were not for that rune, she would also be in the news reports most likely. Looking in front of herself with a Rin, thought how far she could go without sponsors. She was even allocated this luxurious penthouse. The guard standing nearby was named for what with A Rin thought so. He was ready to listen to her. And then Rin shared thoughts about the fact that she did not know how to survive in the next round. The guard assured Rin that she had nothing to worry about, because she has him, and she needs to worry less and rely completely on him. With a smile of a illuminated face, with A Rin confirmed that she trusted him. When the company chose him as a bodyguard, at first she was alerted because he was assigned to follow her, but if it weren't for him, he would probably have died in the first round. Indeed, during the battle with the goblins, he helped her a lot. He will protect with a Rin that would not happen. And so Rin reminded the guard of new neighbors. Then the cake looked very tasty. But he replied that she could not first gain weight, and secondly, they could then want something in response. But they did not look like bad people in memory with a Rin. One of them looked older than 15. After all, he also had to defeat 100 goblins. It is worth assuming that it is. Incredible. Rin would never have thought that a person who went through it could look so calm. Even by the standards of another world, he is quite skilled, but not as skillful as the guy. Gloomy Sickle. She was even a little sorry for the goblins while she was watching them, how mercilessly he destroyed them. He should have work in the real world. Rin became interesting what he is doing. With him, both would definitely be able to survive the second round. Hugging herself with her hands with a Rin, thought that she was lucky to survive in the first round. But whether it will be possible to survive the next time. 31st January, Tuesday, in the o'clock in the morning, Ryu won house cleaning, and finally, his brother Ryu Ming returned. And Ryu won him very much. He was glad that his brother was at home. Ryu Won asked whether he received a Hyun money. He received, but not too much, about 15 billion, and the last time it was 17. Then Ryu Won asked what was said in the bank. And in the bank, everyone was in shock that once again, Ryu was coming for a win. They wanted to know what his secret is. Ryu Ming told everyone that he had all this. winning numbers. Also, Ryu 1 asked his brother whether he was going to invest everything in Bitcoin again. Ryu Ming confirmed. After all, the course rose to 150 billion. The younger Ryu himself was afraid that the course could fall. He invited Hyun to sell everything, but too early. Ryu Ming asked his brother not to worry about it and provide him to him. Then the brothers decided to eat. They had lunch delicious noodles with meat and went for shopping together. 31st January. Tuesday has been 11:55. Ryu 1 sits near the bed of Hyun and holds his hand. The second task is very soon. Hyun must survive. The older brother Ryu Ming is much more positive. He has enough strength, and Ryu Vonu needs to sleep too. By the time he wakes up, Hyun should already wake up. At midnight, the movement began. Ryu Min was transferred to her other body, the body of a gloomy sickle. The players arrived. The place was slightly different from the first round. It was like some kind of forest. The players also recognized the gloomy sickle who took first place in the last round, and they kept a distance with him, just what he achieved. Here she should appear. The gloomy sickle knew this. After all, this is not the first time in this place. And here it is. Angel. But this is a completely different angel. Not the same as the last time. Everyone was interested in why. People noticed that this is different. The new mentor explained that an accident occurred with the last angel and she could not come. People began to panic. But the new one assured them that it was superfluous and that now she would accompany them in further rounds. So the conditions of the second round were announced. It was necessary to choose a representative of the region for the allotted for 3 hours. And all. The participants were 5,143 people. No one understood why it was. But according to the conditions, the number of passed was equal to the number of all players. That is, today everyone will be able to survive. All you need to do is mutually choosing the main thing in the region. All are quite puzzled. The angel decided to explain, this is not a combat round. You just need to choose a representative of the zone. The representative will be able to command the others. This is the power of authority. Of course, everyone now wanted to be the main ones. It will not be easy. In these 3 hours, you need to vote. After the participant gives his voice, he fulfills the task and returns home. Players are completely delighted and think that all this is very simple, but the gloomy sickle knows how everything really is. The competition will be tense. 3 hours began. Only Huan Yun Ming is disappointed. He tuned into a fight. After all, he has enough strength, and he is not for whom to try it on. He is very annoyed. This surprised the gloomy sickle. Power skills. He thought that Yun Minen fell out of power. Runa Huan Yun Mina, and this situation. Everything happens as always. These 3 hours, they will discuss candidates. But now, another thing is important. If this is the main quest, then it should be hidden. And this hidden quest of the second round, class choice. Need to get a class. In addition, the gloomy sickle needs to quickly reach the DE level. He confidently entered the forest and took out a weapon. A creature was waiting ahead of him. It was a goblin, the same as in the first level, and in less than a minute, the gloomy sickle struck him with his dagger. Triple buff is activated. Its indicators all instantly increased. To go to the forest for hunting was a great idea. In addition, where one goblin is there and the rest, the gloomy sickle continued his way. He was not mistaken. There were a lot of goblins in the depths of the forest. They were not friendly, but the gloomy sickle knew what he had to do. The battle began again. 1, 2, 3. And now, the number of defeated goblins is already 50 out of 100. The skills are improved by 50 paces thanks to the rune of the massacre. Half an hour has passed. Little by little, the gloomy sickle raised his level. Opening the Ru Min status window, saw that already at the 9th level. He put all the glasses again in dexterity. Huan Yun Min is invested in force, but this is not always a good idea. The speed is much more important. There are 4 main parameters: strength, intellect, smilling, and luck. Of course, they are all important, but to each his own. The class causes both physical and magical damage, so it is better to improve all skills, alternately and evenly. In the forest behind him, the gloomy sickle caught the sound. While he was dealing with monsters after him, someone was watching inseparably. This is the first time with him. Having sharply turned around with the weapon, the gloomy sickle ordered an unknown observer to go forward. A fair-haired pretty girl came out of the forest. This is that actress. Their neighbor is Rin. She apologized to the gloomy sickle and said that she followed him on purpose. Behind her was a guy who introduced himself as an Ayan San-ho. They assured that they had no poor intentions. Hearing the name of the N, San-sing sickle, realized that this is the right hand of Ma Gyeon-rock. Ma Gyeon-rock, the eldest son of the head of the largest corporation in the country, who is known in the game by the name of the user Heavenly Demon. This Heavenly Demon was one of those for whom the gloomy sickle hunt. If he is on the side of a gloomy sickle, then it will be easier for him to become stronger. But even gloomy sickle needs a priest who is connected with Ma Gyeon-rock to be on his side in the 20th round. The gloomy sickle did not expect to see Ma Gyeon-rock with his right hand so soon. Well, nothing. This is even for the better. Just why he walks with C and Rin. Maybe. The gloomy sickle remembered the man with whom the actress saw yesterday. The company Ma Gyeon-rock sponsor celebrities. Perhaps they are. He does not like that the future is changing. Then the gloomy sickle calmly asked these two for how long they pursue him and why. Rin said that from the very beginning. She also apologized for it. They did not want to upset him. When asked about why they went for a gloomy sickle with a Rin, replied that she had a proposal. She offered a gloomy Serpa to chat with them. Sickle noted, gloomily grinning, that this was needed only for their benefit and that he does not need them. After all, he has no desire to be in the team. The gloomy sickle turned away. And San-ho was outraged by the arrogance of the gloomy sickle. But Rin was sure that the gloomy sickle was not just taking first place. He has such a frightening atmosphere, and she really wants to be with him in the team. And even though Rin was very sorry that the plan did not work, she suggested the Academy of Sciences of San-ho also to hunt a little. He agreed, and they also went further into the forest. He continued his hunt and gloomy sickle. It is most important for him to pump and not to assemble a team. Already 60 goblins have been defeated. Suddenly, a new monster was in front of him. He looked like a very large wolf. And he was not alone. These are gnolls. How many of them? And they attacked. The first gloomy sickle defeated immediately. And yet, hooray, 10th level. Finally, the gloomy sickle fulfilled all the conditions for choosing a class. Now you can use the store. There is a hidden call, finally promotion. Attractions is to improve your skills before voting. To change the class, you need to get a promotion item. Then you can get a ticket for a discount on an ejected item at half price. Those who are faced with this task for the first time are usually confused. What kind of expansion is this and what classes are? Everyone understands that it is cool, but no one knows where to get this item. Promotion items can usually be obtained by fulfilling special level conditions. Warriors should increase their strength to at least 10, and defeat at least 30 monsters within an hour. To get your own advanced subject. Berserkers need to hunt assassins for some time several times to successfully strike in the back of monsters and so on. This means that a person needs to perform actions related to his class in order to get his advanced subject. At first, the gloomy sickle also hunted for monsters and received a hunter class. But after the gloomy sickle learned about such a class as the Reaper class, he adhered to him for a very long time. So the gloomy sickle has the subject of promotion, and it is time to use it. Now he moved to the class of Reapers. As an additional reward, the gloomy sickle receives the Manual of the Reap. When used during the day, the power of attack by a gun doubles. When using at night, the attack speed increases half. If the rune is not used, significantly reduces the risk of a player's enemy. Just like an additional reward, a mowing braid was received, and also a ticket for a discount of 50% for a daily item. Also, the rank is raised from the beginner to the student. There are only 6 ranks: Grandmaster, Master Expert, Ordinary Student, and Beginner in the reverse order. When the rank rises, the player receives privileges. So, the Gloomy Sickle was the first in the region who changed the class, and he mastered the neutral skill of tracking as the first reward. It is worth testing it and find Huan Yun Mina. What a Gloomy Sickle did. The face and nickname coincided. The location of the target began to track the location of the target. This is only 190 meters from the location of the Gloomy Sickle. On the ground in front of a Gloomy Sickle appeared an arrow that would lead him to Huan Yun Min. It turns out he is also in the forest. On the last attempt, he was 2 kilometers. Perhaps you should go. Meanwhile, exhausted by Rin fell without strength. Unknown players fell into it with an arrow. Her partner of Aeon San So was also wounded. But they need to move. You cannot allow them to be caught up. Only in theory, her body in the real world should not suffer from wounds applied here. Corin must be survived. And then with Rin gathered her will into a fist and continued to move forward. But it was too late. They called out from behind. A group of armed guys, led by Kavan Yun Min, stood and mocked at Rin and Anasan Ho. They injured them. The An San Ho himself was terribly angry that they were caught by Rin. He must bother with her. Will he really have to fight? The guys began to laugh again. Aha, really, he really hopes to cope with them all. Why do they do it at all? About this, An San Ho, and asked. It turns out they need a girl. Ma about Rin, her nickname. Which in life with Rin, actress. The main in this gang proposed Anu San Ho to leave peacefully and leave them with a Rin. He was no better. And San Wo thought that if he knew that she had a goal, then he would abandon her at the very beginning, because An San Ho was not going to die because of this woman. But there is one problem. An San Ho will very disappoint his boss Ma Gyeon Rock if he does not manage to protect with and Rin. And An San, I decided to try to do it, for which he was again amazed by this company. What a pose. He will really fight. How funny it was. Both and Anu San Ho and Rin were scary, but in this world they did not go to prison for crimes. Therefore, their enemies were not afraid of punishment. Suddenly, a gloomy sickle came out of the nearest tree. Everyone was very surprised. Looking around the situation, the gloomy sickle realized that something was wrong here. Kavan Yun Ming hinted to him that this was not his business, but the gloomy sickle did not listen to him. And so the An San Ho could not stand it and told the gloomy serp about the persecution and that the gang wanted to get Rin. Also, An San Ho asked the gloomy sickle for help, but Yun Ming dismissed. He still insisted that the gloomy sickle was walking his way and that this is not his business. The gloomy sickle was furious. These are his acquaintances, and he will not give them offense. And here even Kavan Yun Min became a little scared. He did not know what gloomy sickle could do. But he suspected. Of course, the gloomy sickle decided to help Rin and Anu San Ho, not without benefit. If it helps, it will leave a good impression of himself with Ma Gyeong Rock. If such a company will be in debt with a gloomy sickle, then the award will grow like a snowball, and then they will fulfill a much greater request. The gang was on the contrary, not in earnest. It had fun gloomy sickle. Simultaneously with the fear of Yun Ming, he was very angry. What is this gloomy sickle? Allows himself. Standing opposite Huan, Yun Mina gloomy sickle invited him to honestly admit if he did not want to fight. Yun Min asked if he will be released if he says it, but the gloomy sickle of this was not enough. Yun Min should kneel and beg. That is, Yun Min had to humiliate himself in front of everyone. In general, Yun Min would prefer to avoid a fight, but the gloomy sickle led him out of himself. After all, Yun Min is strong enough. You need to try. Correctly, according to Huan, Yun Mina gloomy sickle crossed the line. Then he will have to fight. And talking to Yun Ming, tried to quietly reduce the distance to sharply hit, in order for everything to be honestly gloomy sickle to remove his weapon. It seemed a very unfinished and ridiculous young mind, and Yun Ming tried to hit. Literally a second, and Kavan Yun Min is already lying on earth. The gloomy sickle is clever and stronger than him, but Yun Min attacks again and again unsuccessfully. How gloomy sickle can be so strong? Nothing happened, and Kavan Yun Ming ordered one of his firing on a gloomy sickle to shoot from his bow. Unfortunately, the gloomy sickle again turned out to be faster and smarter, and he injured his hand. The remaining members of the gang got angry. There was nothing to make it sense that they would not do. Gloomy sickle guessed all their moves in advance and attacked first, and so they are all wounded and exhausted. It almost cost nothing gloomy sickle. All the same, this is not enough. Gloomy sickle needs to instill such a fear in them that they are afraid of him like fire, and they did not think to come again. They already prayed for mercy. Only Kavan Yun Min, who cowardly hid behind a tree, remained. But there will be no exceptions. After all, the gloomy sickle still remembered how in real life Huan Yun Min humiliated and offended him at all, depriving Yun Min's hands. Gloomy sickle understood how much he likes all this cruelty. Out of Academy of Sciences, San Ho and Rin stood frozen with amazement. They were intact, thanks to the gloomy sickle. You should no longer worry about anyone. Sincerely, Thanks to the gloomy sickle for the salvation of Academy of Sciences, Sanho and Rin bowed to him. Even A of the AN Sanho asked the gloomy sickle why he spared these villains. He replied that it was unprofitable to lose their lives, since the number of past players will decrease in the future, therefore, not time. And he is right. Understanding the game of a gloomy sickle is different from others. He is smarter and thinks much more. The truth is impressive. Turning around the gloomy sickle, he left for the compensation that was offered by the Aosan Soho. How noble it is. Anu Sanho will have to report this to the president upon return. Meanwhile, the discussion of the one who became the leader continued in the clearing. There were many candidates. They quarreled, fought among themselves, and reigned full chaos. 2 hours left until the end of the vote. It was time to hurry and make a choice in favor of one player. But for whom to vote? One of the players has a run of belief. What will he say? This rune is not for the first time. And earlier, he was disappointed with her. She does not work at the players above the level, and there are no monsters either. But he learned to manage people with her help and with benefit for himself. If this time he can become a representative of the zone correctly. First, you need to choose candidates, 5 people, and then vote. The players supported this idea. You cannot offer yourself. Using his rune, Minho made one of the players to offer his candidacy. Also, so that others also consider it a good idea. He skillfully manipulated and laughed in his soul from these simpletons who was so easy to control. In addition, there were candidates for the gloomy sickle and life as a documentary and the flame of a red dragon. Could not choose the 5th. 4 candidates left. The first election speech decided to say Minho, but another candidate interrupted him and a quarrel began between them. A simple verbal skirmish grew into a scandal. This time, the rune did not work. Apparently, life is a documentary higher than Minho, and this second candidate began to threaten players with reprisals if they do not vote for him. In support of life, this documentary took out a weapon and deprived Minho. The crowd was shocked. Life, this documentary, is simply distraught. He rushed at people and destroyed them with ease. The people were scared. Life, this documentary, was sure that now they would vote for him. There is also a gloomy sickle. Wonderful. Life, this documentary, wanted to deal with him for a long time and take his place. The gloomy sickle himself increased its level to the 16th by this time, although it was humiliated by already 200 monsters. It's not enough, but it seems it was time to go. The time has come for voting. All players were moved to the starting point. It's time. The arrivals looked around. What was here? They did not see everything that happened. So many dead. It looks like Cho Jun-sik again became a leader. This is not the first time in the memory of the gloomy sickle. Cho Jun-sik, leader of the group Jun-sika, a born fighter who took second place in the ranking of the region. But his personality is a real work of art. Get rid of him, a good idea, but not the time. Seeing the gloomy sickle, Cho Jun-sik headed for him. With a grin, he invited a gloomy serp to work for him when he became a representative. Of course, this proposal was not at all interested in the gloomy sickle. This was a condition for mercy from Cho Jun-sik. But again, the gloomy sickle was not afraid. He was ready to fight. Moreover, the gloomy sickle suggested that Cho Jun-sika bend in front of him. Then perhaps he will spare him. This had amused and at the same time angry Jun-sik. It seems that the battle could not be avoided. Cho Jun-sika surprised the new weapon of the gloomy sickle, and he realized that he had screwed up. The weapon was incredible, long black braid, but there was nowhere to retreat. The gloomy sickle had a plan. He needs people to vote for Cho Jun-sik so that he could use it in the 3rd round later. Plus, the time has come to an angel. This is true. She is here. There will be no battle. At least for now. Although Cho Jun-sik breathed a sigh of relief, he was lucky. So, it's time to make your choice. Voting for the representative of the region is open. The player who does not participate in the vote dies. Voting time, 5 minutes. The people glanced puzzled at Cho Jun-sik before voting. He was furious. People were afraid of his anger. And then the voting time came out. With a slight margin, Cho Jun-sik walked over the voices of a gloomy sickle. But at the same time, Cho Jun-sik was dissatisfied. Why not all voices for him? He is the first, but only 2,412 votes. And in second place is a gloomy sickle. These bastards did not vote for him. After all, Cho Jun-sik warned, The angel announced the life of this documentary by the representative of the region officially. He also receives personal powers, and the new representative himself already dreamed of how to make people destroy the gloomy sickle with his authority. He will regret everything else. But as it turned out, everything is not so simple. You can use the strength of the order only 10 times. Plus, this does not work on players having a class. This fact was madly disappointed with life, this documentary, but at least something. The angel had a surprise. There was a hidden task in the round, class task, and of course it was necessary to find the subject. Absolutely everyone was puzzled, as the gloomy sickle suggested. No one understood what kind of item the chosen class was. The quest window was not received by those who have not reached the 10th level. In all areas, in total, this call was performed by about 80,000 people. One of them is from this area, only one. And again, the first in the top in all regions was a gloomy sickle. He is also the only class in the region. He is also a reaper. They looked at him with admiration. The gloomy sickle himself stood aside while everyone was unceremoniously staring at him. The results of the second round were summed up at the speed of a very task. Having announced the results, the angel congratulated the gloomy sickle on the next victory and stated that he very successfully picked up his nickname. Did he really know in advance which class would receive? Naturally, gloomy sickle replied that this was just an accident. He could not know anything in advance. The mentor was intrigued. It turns out a gloomy sickle will not yet be the only one on whom the official position is life. This is a documentary. Simply put, the representative of the region will not be able to manipulate them. Also, the angel only now revealed to everyone the secret that it could be used by the power of manipulation only 10 times. This was very angry with Chojun Sika. After all, only he knew that. Why is this angle chatting? Another angel decided to reward the first class who received. Gloomy Sickle received a coupon for a rare, low-level equipment. He chose leather armor of an experienced hunter. Another bonus came out the effect of triple experience at the 3rd level. The competition ended. The players returned to the real world again. The 3rd round will begin on the 1st of March, 2023 years at exactly midnight. Waking up in his bed, Kavan Yunming was relieved to note that his both hands are intact. It seems that while the player is alive in that world, he can return to his real without injuries. You should no longer behave inadvertently with a gloomy sickle. I came to my senses and rin for a mug of tea. The guard was, of course, with her. She was grateful to Aisun Jaja for protection. Unfortunately, Rin did not know that Ansan Chel was ready to leave her at any time if not for the authorities. In addition to this, Rin wanted to thank the gloomy sickle in life, but did not know how it was possible to do it. After all, he hides his real person. True, there is one way to thank. As Ansan Chel said in the next round to give him any subject, Xiao Ren liked the idea, and the guard left her alone. In the elevator, A.N. Sansel immediately dialed the number. He talked with a certain Mr. Ma. He congratulated him on the receipt of the class of the Dark Knight. He also said that he and Rin reached only the 8th level. And then An San was said Ma Gyon Rock, how they suffered, and that he has something to tell about the gloomy sickle. He was invited to the hotel to talk. All this conversation in the underground parking was eavesdropping at Ryu Ming. He realized that Anasan Ho called the boss Ma Gyon Rock. 10 minutes ago, Ryu Ming was still at home with Ryu Vaughn. Ryu Ming took advantage of his new abilities to find the Academy of Sciences of San Ho. He was very close but moved away. It was time to go. It was worth checking where it was the A.N. Sanchel gathered in such an early. To follow him immediately upon returning is a good idea. You can learn a lot of useful things for the future. And Ryu Ming followed him. Mr. Ma in his room looked out the window and blinted that tonight is perfect for work because the moon is quite dull, but now he needs to restrain himself. First, the report of the Academy of Sciences of the servant of that is, the Eng Ho in the game. Gloomy Sickle. That's who Ma Gyon Rock was still thinking and drinking whiskey. A very interesting person. He took first place in both rounds. Something is wrong here. Having contacted his people, the Gloomy Sickle contacted him. No one will stand in the way of Ma Gyon Rock, even if it is a #1 player. But first, you need to wait for the report. Like on time. The doorbell. This is the An Sanchel. He began to thank Ma Gyon Rock for support. It was noticeable that he was trying to bend as much as possible to the owner. Also, Aung San Chel congratulated Ma Gyeon-rak on the fact that he survived in the second round, but the second round was too simple. In addition, Ma Gyeon-rak received a class with which too, the An San Chel congratulated him. The second and third place is also not easy to earn. He continued to flatter Ma Gyeon-rak. Suddenly putting the glass on the table, Ma Gyeon-rak and his forehead asked by the Academy of Sciences of San-age on the purpose of his visit. For his flattery was too undisguised, something he needed this obvious. Apparently, Ma Gyeon-rak knew that the Academy of Sciences of the San-solder has a request for him. He did not pull and ask to tell where to find a special item for obtaining a class. Surprisingly, Ma Gyeon-rak immediately admitted that the subject appeared himself while he defeated the monsters. But he kept silent that the rune of the Dark Knight helped him a lot. The rune was in his inventory as a bonus from an angel. Ma Gyeon-rak realized that after the 10th level, he could get this class. But despite the devotion of the interlocutor, he cannot disclose such information about himself. But it was time to get down to business. Ma Gyeon-rak wanted to know who attacked the Academy of Sciences of Sanho and Rin. Initially, he thought that it was a gloomy sickle himself. How was he mistaken? After all, as it turned out from the report of indignity, a gloomy sickle, on the contrary, saved his wards. Ma Gyeon-rak asked to tell all the details in detail. So, An San Chel told the whole story at first. They almost died from behind a handful of idiots who wanted to destroy With and Rin. Mar Sickle helped them a lot. With his hands in front of him, Ma Gyeon-rak sat deeply thinking. He not only almost lost his subordinate, but also his business. Unfortunately for Ma Gyeon-rak, the gloomy sickle left the hooligans alive. And then, An San Chel passed the words of the gloomy sickle that the number of places for players will decrease if the number of people of the region will decrease, so it was unprofitable to destroy them. Ma Gyeon-rak was the same opinion, but still worried that hooligans could repeat an attempt to attack with a Rin. He was able to maintain his source of income and subordinate only thanks to the gloomy serp. Now Ma Gyeon-rak in debt to a gloomy sickle. Ma Gyeon-rak took a sip, apparently to reward him. And San Chel noted that he had already offered this to a gloomy serp, but he refused. Everything was obvious. Gloomy Sickle simply does not want to reveal his real personality and give numbers of cards or something like that. Of course, this is a reinsurance. Then Ma Gyeon-rak ordered the aircraft in the next round to convey his gratitude to the gloomy sickle. Also, if possible, he needs to help him in everything to get rid of duty. Ma Gyeon-rak has another question. Nikki of those who are attacked by the Academy of Sciences, San and Rin. And San Chel promised to find them as soon as possible. Ryu Ming followed the Air-Kusan Bay near the hotel. Immediately after returning, he went to Ma Gyeon-roku, the faithful dog, that he checked it. It was time to return otherwise if they saw him suspiciously. In any case, Ryu Ming would never have thought that the celebrity-sponsored Ma Gyeon-rak would live next to him. It seems to be worth it to thank your brother for this. After all, he learned about this only thanks to the story with the cakes. If it weren't for this Min, I would never have found out that Rin lives there, and that the En San Chel is her bodyguard. The rune of the Dark Knight Ma Gyeon-rak is very powerful, but the rune is not issued as a reward for choosing a class and the owner to become a Dark Knight. And the worst is that for the use of a dark aura, it is necessary to accumulate a special type of mana, dark mana, and it cannot be obtained in the usual way. Only losing life. So many. This is a very suitable man, rock skill given his hobby. He is just a sociopath. Ryu Ming doubts not even dangerous for him. So far, it's enough just to keep it in mind. There are many skillful people who can be made by partners in the future. Not only Ma Gyeon-rak, you need to start work as soon as the sun rises. The seller of the round-the-clock store was puzzled and upset. At such a pace, sales will be halved. There were fewer people. The crisis came from all sides. His daughter entered the store. She noticed that the father was sad. As it turned out, the government forbade the sale of lottery tickets in his store by coming up with some other excuse. But it was obvious that it was all because of the players. They could use their abilities in real life. How it was already. 100 winning tickets were bought in his store. But so it is not easy due to the cost of renting and paying employees. How the owner did not know how to continue. The daughter assured him that everything would be fine because she would soon release and will help him. Then the father interrupted Juri because she needs to think about studying at the moment. And do not score your head with something to others. After all, Juri has quite good grades and dreams of becoming a doctor. But given the whole situation, Ju-ri has now discarded this idea. Her father was shocked, but he understood. The main thing is that Ju-ri survived in the second round, and even received a class. True, her father learned about this only now. At that moment, Ju-ri raised her hand over her father's head, and something happened. She said that this is called the skill of blessing. She received it in the support class. It increases the skills slightly. This should help the father cheer up a little and not lose heart. And indeed, Papa Ju-ri began to feel a little more energetic, and the mood improved. Suddenly, Ryu Ming entered the store. The seller of the rhinestone recognized him. It was the guy who won in 100 lotteries by buying them in this store. So it turns out Ryu Min came to ask for forgiveness. He saw the news, and he knew that now the lottery cannot be sold to this person. Ryu Min felt guilty, although the seller convinced him that everything was in order, and after that, Ryu minds the envelope. It was compensation for the problems caused. It was 10 million won, and the seller and Ju-ri were shocked. What a lot of money. But Ryu Ming insisted. Since he became the reason for the troubles of this family, he simply must somehow help them. Putting the envelope on the rack, Ryu Ming silently went out. But the seller could not accept such a huge amount. Ju-ri took the money and followed Ryu Min to return his envelope. Already on Ju-ri Street, Ryu Mina caught up. She reminded him that once they studied in the same class. He pretended not to recognize her, what noticeably upset Ju-ri. Of course it was a lie. Ryu Ming perfectly remembered Min Ju-ri, the daughter of the owner of the round-the-clock store, and he knew about her unique class amplifier. He was already encountering her in the game, and he was surprised when he recognized her classmate in her. I thought it was just a coincidence. Now Ryu Min needs to make Min Ju-ri his ally, so he pretended to not recognize her. It is necessary to interest her. Fortunately, Ming Ju-ji-ru invited Ryu Mina somewhere to go together. He agreed. Min Ju-ri and Ryu Ming chose a place nearby. It was a park. They sat on the nearest bench. Ju-ri tried to give the money back Ryu because the amount was too large to accept it. However, Ryu Ming knew in advance that the Ju-ri family would not take 10 million won. She is one of those people who do not like to feel obligated to anyone who does not matter how difficult the situation is. But Ryu Ming did not accept the money back. Very persistently, Ryu Ming tried to prove Ju-ri that he really needed not to feel the blame not to be proper and that they would take this money. All the same, for Min Ju-ri it was very burdensome. She did not know that this was the idea of a gloomy sickle. Then Min Ju-ri said that only 1 million would accept. Ming Ju-ri still could not believe that Ryu Min did not recognize her. They were friends at school. Ryu Mina was surprised by this word. After all, at school, she practically did not pay attention to him. Friends are said very loudly. Despite this, Ryu continued to pretend that today he first heard the name Min Ju-ri. It hurt her a little. He was sorry for her, but this is the only way to interest Min Ju-ri, and it seems that it worked. Min Ju-ru got angry, and reminding her name, asked Ryu Mina to remember this time. Approaching Ju-ri, embarrassed by her Ryu Ming, promised that this time he could remember her. In addition, Ryu Min immediately asked for a phone number Ju-ri. After all, they can communicate after release. Ju-ri was embarrassed. It seems she began to like it. And of course, Ju-ri dictated his phone number. Continuing his game, Ryu Ming suggested that it was fate, and he and Ju-ri need to see each other more often. They said goodbye. Ju-ri could not give him an envelope with money back. The feelings for Ju-ri were new. She was embarrassed, and at the same time, it was something pleasant. Ryu Ming took her phone number. It's so unexpected. Her heart was beating faster. It seems she likes him. For the first time, Ryu Mina Min Ju-ri saw by accident. Some guys offended him around the corner of the school and tried to lure the money. Then she called the police. Was it out of pity? Or, nevertheless, Min Ju-ri felt that she had to protect him. She did not know, but I traced that Ryu mined safely at home. A little later, Ming Ju-ri saw how Ryu Ming went to the part-time job as if nothing had happened. Then she realized that he was stronger than it seems. It all started with this. It was then that Min Ju-ri became interested in Ryu Min, but I could not get courage to speak with him. Then the feelings of Min Ju-ri only grew up, but she could not get closer to him. She fell in love with irrevocably and strongly. Min Ju-ri would never have thought that he would meet him here now. This is a chance donated to her by God. She must use this. She needs to be a little bolder. Also, these 10 million out. Ryu Min is so kind to her family. Min Ju-ri thought that it might invite Ryu Mina to eat. I did not have to wait long. Ryu Ming received SMS from Min Ju-ru with an invitation to dine at her expense. This was a condition. For Ryu, this was a good sign. She feels in debt to him. If they continue at the same pace, Min Ji-ri will be able to become an ally of Ryu Mina, what he wanted so much. And then he will bring Ju-ri alive to the 20th round. He quickly gathered, Ryu Ming went to a meeting with a girl. Brother Ryu Vaughn, he said that he was going to a friend. Then Ryu Won asked if the girl was. The brother dismissed. After all, he may have different friends. And it seems the younger Ryu was upset. He was tied to Ryu Min, and he was afraid that a new friend would replace him. Lunch in the steakhouse liked both Ryu and Min Ju-ri. They sat at the table and chatted serenely. At the same time, Min Ju-ri was in a particularly high mood. Dinner with Ryu Min, she could not dream about it before. It was necessary to somehow support the conversation, and Min Ju-ri asked Ryu how he managed to win in so many lotteries. The first place is 4 times in a row. Ryu Ming repeated the story of sleep and numbers. Then Min Ju-ri asked about how the first round Ryu Mina passed, and in which area it is located. Ryu's number did not remember, but it ends at 5. Min Ju-ri ended 7, unfortunately. True, she did not know that sooner or later they were still going to meet in the game field anyway. But Ryu Ming knew, as soon as the number of survivors will be reduced to reduce. The questions continued. Ryu Ming lied about his level, and also about the fact that it does not have a class. But Min Ju-ri immediately spoke about her support class and about what could strengthen other players. Encouraged by interest, Ryu Mina Ju-ji-ri showed him how her blessing skill works, and she touched his head with her hand. All his characteristics were instantly increased half. This effect lasted 3 hours. Amazing. Wow. It was very cool. Also, Ryu Ming knows that when she still raises the level, he will be able to raise its indicators and 100%. Ryu Ming was very glad that Ju-ri got such a wonderful skill. Indeed, first of all, he resumed acquaintance with her precisely for this. A bag of gold as a reward for the first receipt of the class was still not open at Ryu Mina. It gives out a random amount of gold, depending on good luck. The higher the luck, the more gold. Now he will open. The fascinated Ju-ri said Ryu Min that he can ask her to activate her skill at any time if he needs it. There was one more. Ju-ri once again thanked Ryu Mina for money from herself and from her father. She also promised once to repay the debt. Ju-ri suggested that it would not necessarily be money. And at that moment, Ju-ru handed Ryu Min's stone she received during the hunt. He did not refuse. Wishing each other good luck in the next round, Ryu Ming and Ju-ri said goodbye. On the way home, Ryu Ming opened his inventory. The gift of Ju-ri will be useful. This is the weakest purple stone of mana. The description did not give a concept for why this stone. But for sure, to the 20th level, the value of this stone will become more clear. An unexpected gift. Upon reaching the 20th level, the player opens a feature that is called the United, and it allows you to combine mana stones with equipment for the sake of adding additional opportunities. Mana stones are 7 flowers. Red stone adds damage to orange strength and yellow luck. Green stone increases dexterity and blue intelligence. The blue stone mana reduces the resulting damage. The purple stones of mana are the rarest. They fall very rarely and increase all skills. Great luck finds such a stone, and Ryu, he got it just as a gift. You need to open the bag until the end of the action of buff Ji-ri, and before that, increase the readings with the help of the Rune of the Massacre. Ryu Ming took out a bag with 100 small worms. The Rune of the Massacre increases the characteristics for each affected creature. Insects are also considered. All living things are counted. In that world, there were only monsters. This is not. Ryu Ming brought his leg over the worms and crushed before that, apologizing to them. All characteristics are increased by 100% with the effect of the Rune of the Massacre. Previously, luck was 15, now 45. This should be enough. A bag of gold. It's time to use it. Previously, Ryu Minen fell through the smaller 3,000 gold, and at most, 6,000. Ryu Mina's eyes widened in surprise. 9,999 gold. This is the maximum amount that can get caught. How Ryu Min was lucky to meet Min Ju-ri, and the fact that she used a blessing on him. In total, he now has 16,249 gold. This is enough to buy an epic object, and at the same time, stay with money. The thing that needs Ryu Min will go on sale in 2 weeks. so while it is worth saving money. The younger brother was already waiting for Hyun at home and was very happy about his return. Ryu 1 thought that Ryu Ming was on a date and demanded details, but Ryu Ming assured him that it was definitely not a date and translated the topic. He believes that his brother eats poorly. After all, now they can afford much more and the best than just a quick made noodles. Like last time, Bitcoin grew to 150 billion, and after 2 weeks, it will increase more. Ryu Min will need to go in advance and sell them. And before that, it is possible to get a driver's license. After all, in the position of Ryu, it is unreasonable to move on foot. Yes, and he can afford it. Written test for a driver's license. Ryu Ming tried to remember what time he passes this test. You need to quickly finish it and go on business. The result was obvious, but 4 days took to receive rights. Ryu's driving experience has more than anyone. After receiving the rights, RUUMN immediately purchased the car Lamborghini Adventure. He all the time drove him in past lives so that he didn't even think about which car to choose this time. Immediately, Ryu Ming issued a deal in the cabin, and he had to wait another month so that his brand new Lamborghini was in place. And 2 weeks later, it was finally time to make a profit from the sale of Bitcoins. He received 300 billion out of this. This is an incredible amount even for him. When his younger brother Ryu won, he heard this amount. He simply lost her speech. 60 billion out of the lottery turned into 300 billion out. According to Ryu, it was time for his brother to stop. But Ryu Ming said that now he will engage in exchange trading. Ryu won him, but his brother assured him that everything would be as it should. Ryu Ming knows what he is doing. The company, which is about to invest in Ryu Ming, takes 85th place in Kosdaq and has a market capitalization of 900 billion. Stock consulting company called the Heavenly Demon. This company belongs to Magyaron Rock and has not yet been able to prove itself. But after building a special system after the 4th round, it will begin to grow at a very fast pace. If Ryu Min receives a share in the company and some management powers, will be able to have a huge impact as a large shareholder and get some advantages. And now Ryu Min needs to buy an item. He saved gold before this day. If there is gold, you can buy an item or general skills. It is very convenient. There is a section of the day. This is a random item and it changes every day. Usually you can't know which item will fall out, but Ryu Ming knows what and when it falls out. So there is no problem for him. And today he will fall the epic object that he needs, a necklace from the bones of the skeleton. Eat. An item that increases intelligence and attack speed. And the price is cheap for its effects. Since this subject managed to find, perhaps it is worth Ryu Mind buy it right now. After the purchase, a little gold remains. Initially, Ryu Ming planned to buy ordinary equipment for the rest. But if he accumulates another 6,000 gold, then he will be able to buy another skill. You need to quickly accumulate money. Fortunately, there will be many monsters in the 3rd round. Already Ryu Min knows about it. Time has passed. The 1st of March came. This day has come. The 3rd round today. This time the players were not in the forest, but somewhere in the appropriate of a dilapidated village. This village is surrounded by a high fortress wall, and there are even castle gates. How in the Middle Ages they hit. In the center of the square, a huge, luminous crystal towered. He was purple. Due to the fact that this new location looks tense, the gloomy sickle noticed that only Cho Jun-sik looks calm. Why would it be? The players whispering behind Life at Life this documentary and discussed his mental behavior. They believed that the gloomy sickle would be the best representative of the region. Hearing these conversations, Life, this documentary was furious again. Then Kavan Yun Ming approached him. To greet and introduce yourself. But Kavan Yun Min struck the representative with his recklessness and the fact that he admitted that he wanted to become a gangster, and he accepted him to his syndicate. All players were amazed at this situation. Who can want to join this patient on the whole head of the bandit? The fisherman sees a fisherman from afar. This union was not a gloomy sickle. After all, this was not the first time, and he was in the hand. Suddenly, the angel appeared at last. There were fewer people for 90 people than the last time, but no one had time to be surprised. Task of the 3rd round. It is necessary to protect the relic for 3 hours. Of the 4,900, only 1,225 will go further, and why initially there are less. Now everyone was interested. It turns out, in reality, some also fight and die. You need to be careful. At some point, A panic began when the players saw that only a quarter of them would go to the next round. The angel confirmed that this was not a mistake. There was another rule, according to which half of the participants could survive. But since almost everyone has survived in the last round, now only a quarter remains. It's time to start preparation. Every 30 minutes from the 4 fortress gates of the wall, the monsters of that is, goblins will come out. They will try to attack the relic in the center of the village. There will be 5 waves of monsters in total. Players need to manage and protect the relic. Those who last 3 hours will receive additional awards. And if it doesn't come out, then everyone will receive serious fines. And regardless of whether the player was fucked up by the relic or not, the ranking will occur in the number of destroyed monsters. Based on the rules of the round of monsters, there will be more than players, but they will be weakened up to 1/3 of their strength. But experience and gold, respectively, will also be reduced. Life, this documentary, was sure that this level would be easy for him, especially given his capabilities and authority. And then the angel drew attention to Jujun Sika. She said that if it happens that the representative will die at the hands of the monster, then his place will be freed. But if he is destroyed by another player, then he will automatically take his place. Players began to look at Jujun Sika. The rivalry is growing. Meanwhile, only 10 minutes were left before the appearance of monsters. There were a lot of people who wanted to get a place Jujun Sik. He was furious again, and a little scared, and then a gloomy sickle came out. He had a proposal to life, this documentary. Gloomy Sickle is ready to protect life as a documentary, but with one condition. In return, the Gloomy Sickle requires the execution of all his orders. For this, he will protect the representative from everything that he can. Of course, Ju Jong-sik understood that the Gloomy Sickle wanted to make him his subordinates. But life could not control this documentary with his pride and refused, as the Gloomy Sickle suggested. Everything that happened in the last life was repeated, and now the Gloomy Sickle must draw a clear line. Having assured everyone that the further fate of the representative does not care about his Gloomy Sickle turned around, the players were going to attack, and then Jun Sik repeatedly thought about the offer, and the first wave of monsters was already on the way. It was necessary to defend the relic, and Ju Jong-sik noticed that the Gloomy Sickle himself went to the entrance and followed him secretly. He was wondering what the Gloomy Sickle conceived. The Gloomy Sickle decided to fight the driver. What madness. The first wave began. 4,900 players against 10,000 eighth-hist monsters. Goblins were already appearing at the gate. True, they were 3 times weakened. Having cowardly looking around, Jujun Sik decided to hide to assess the situation. He was wildly interesting why the Gloomy Sickle does not move and stands at the entrance. Does he really want to fight goblins alone? Climbing the walls of the wall, life, this documentary watched how the goblins began to pass for the battle, and the Gloomy Sickle stood motionless opposite and waited. But the goblins did not have time to approach the Gloomy Serpas, as if they were scattered like midges. Is the player so strong at the 16th level? Jun Sik understood that you could not just stand. He also needs to raise the level. The players around were too busy, and they should not try to destroy the representative. Therefore, life, this documentary went down and headed for the battlefield. With the help of the Discovery Rune, this documentary easily saw all the movements of the goblins. Suddenly, he felt that something flashed near his ear and hit. This is an arrow. There were no goblins with bows. Some of the players did it. At another second, a player with a spear approached him and pierced his side. How mistaken life is a documentary when I thought that no one would touch it yet. He went to the guy with a spear and stuck his dagger. It would be better to accept the offer of a Gloomy Sickle then. But life is too proud. There must be another way out. He drew attention to the player with the nickname the Dragon of Black Flame on his right hand, and taking advantage of his ability, ordered him to become his guard. Meanwhile, the Gloomy Sickle ruthlessly dealt with the monsters, not paying attention to anything around. The number of destroyed by him was 502 goblins, of the 100 necessary. In the status window, the Gloomy Sickle saw that he had already earned 2,000 gold. At such a speed, there was a probability of earning 20,000 to the second wave. It may be possible to get the Rune of Thought much earlier, and the Gloomy Sickle continued. Goblins were already afraid to approach him. Even they understood how strong he was, and then he went to them himself. So the players successfully withstood the first wave. The 9 of 67 people fell. Everyone who survived received 500 gold coins. Jun Sik was still alive and other players hunted him as before. It was lucky that he has defenders. One followed him even without using the skill. The second wave was not long in coming. 3,933 players against 7,866 weakened goblins and hobgoblins. Again, the gloomy sickle was the first to rush into battle and scattered the goblins in all directions like fluffs. He has reached the 20th level. The rank is increased from the newcomer to the regulars. From this moment on, he can use general properties. Finally, the gloomy sickle received the 20th level. Now you can create unique items that cannot be taken out in the store. In honor of the increase in its mark, the death was strengthened from 100% to 120. In addition, the gloomy sickle studied the unique skill of the Reaper Knight of Death. He creates an artificial knight within a radius of 500 meters. The next skill will open at a 40 level. Having decided to try a new skill, the gloomy sickle let the Knight of Death on a crowd of goblins fled in his direction, and they were instantly absorbed by darkness. The goblins were lost blind, and during literally a couple of minutes, everyone was defeated by a gloomy sickle. The second wave is over. 590 people fell. Again, 500 gold coins to everyone as a reward. During the rest, the gloomy sickle decided to acquire the basic skills. First, the detection of presence, to feel everyone within a radius of 30 meters. Now you need to earn another 20,000 gold. The third wave, 4,434 players against 686 weakened goblins. The third wave flew as quickly as the first two. Fourth, 3,001 player against 6,002 goblins and gnoll. Now, the advantage of the monsters was more significant, but the players completed this wave. There are only 2 waves left. Life is a documentary to the 5th wave used all 10 attempts to skill, but this should have been enough to be protected. The 5th wave, 2,700 players against 10,000 8th Hist gnolls. The tension has increased, and let the gnolls weaken 3 of them more than 10,000. It will be difficult. Nevertheless, some players left no attempts to take the representative of the representative, and Life, this documentary, was hiding behind the guards, but there was not one of them left. He was in great danger, not finding another option. Juj Jun Sik began to run away. He reached the gloomy sickle and shouted that he agreed to his proposal, and the gloomy sickle smiled predatorily and refused. Late. The representative of the representative and authority is used. Now, Ju Jun Sik is not interesting to gloomy sickle. Meanwhile, the chase got to Life, this documentary. The players saw how the gloomy sickle rejected the representative of the region, and then Huan Yunming suddenly announced. Zhou Jun-sik counted on his help, but as it turned out, he wants to get a position for himself, and he hit him. Representative Life, this documentary died. Player Huan Yunmin becomes a new representative of the ESCS Area 45. Now he will be able to touch with A-Rin as much as he wants due to the power of authority. This is his main goal. The people were dissatisfied with this new representative. After all, he is also a complete psycho, but Kavan Yunming was already fled to the gloomy sickle to offer his services and skills. For a gloomy sickle, this was not enough. Kavan Yunmin should kneel and beg. Of course, Kavan Yunming was angry and humiliated, but he had to step over himself. He will not cope without the protection of the gloomy sickle. And Kavan Yunmin knelt. The gloomy sickle did not see this scene for the first time, a miserable, nasty sight. But from Kavan Yunmina will be a good thing. The gloomy sickle agrees to protect him. And although the players did not quite suit this state of things to attack the gloomy sickle even altogether, they did not dare. Seeing the authority of the gloomy sickle among the players of the region, Kavan Yunming realized that he had acted correctly. The 5th wave ended, and then the gloomy sickle turned to Huan Yunmin with an extremely unusual request. He had to use his authoritarian position 10 times and break the artifact. After this request, Kavan Yunmin Pele, why do they need to break up what they should protect? For this, a serious punishment is supposed to be, and then he will not have authority to make Rin with his slave. But Kavan Yunmina did not have a choice. In addition, the gloomy sickle himself chose people who should break the artifact. These were all friends Kavan Yunmina. It was unexpected. He was sorry for friends, but he did it. 10 people attacked the relic. They tried their best to humiliate her with the help of weapons, and they succeeded. The stones scattered into pieces. The main quest was failed. As a punishment for failure, the performer of the divine punishment will be called for 30 minutes. All players were very scared. They need to survive in the battle with the performer during the allotted time. Hidden quest. Only the gloomy sickle knew about this in advance. You need to fight within 30 minutes. The award will be 3,000 gold coins. Some players considered the conditions of the hidden quest more favorable than the conditions of the main one. It was really so. That is why the gloomy sickle wanted the relic to be destroyed. But the gloomy sickle himself did not attack the relic, because now the 10 players who committed it will be fined. All characteristics will be reduced by 50% permanently. The representative of the region is fined the same. The representative of the region, Kavan Yun Ming, was shocked. 50% of the skills are blocked. This can lead him to death. Gloomy Sickle is to blame for everything. Well, the Gloomy Sickle began preparation. I purchased an assassin cloak of insightful boots. Next is the combination. A necklace from a skeleton plus a stone mana. The effect is 1 to the characteristics. +1 to reduce damage, +2 to force. It began. In a last life, a Gloomy Sickle of 2007 players survived only 500. The punishment of the representative from heaven is a monster who can easily cope with 40 players of the 5th level. For this monster, from the messenger from heaven, the Gloomy Sickle hoped to get a large reward, like the defeat of the angel Brielle. In the hands of the representative from heaven was a strange staff, in the form of hands. He hit them on the ground and activated the organizing field around him. Nobody can leave the field actively. The characteristics of the players inside the field are reduced in half. They were all in a wild panic. There were about 300 players inside the limiting field. So it began. Players inside the field fell and died with unknown power. These were arrows from the light that came from the representative of heaven. It was almost impossible to catch from them. As the Gloomy Sickle expected, all the attention of the representative of heaven was occupied by the hunt for people, and his back was open. It is necessary that only the barrier to sleep. Now, do not worry that he will turn out. The representative of heaven did not even have ears. It is necessary to do this on the first attempt. And the Gloomy Sickle struck behind. Perfect hit. The blow is exactly in the eye. Due to the use of the death marks, only 60% of the health of the Gloomy Sickle demolished. 40 left. The limiting field must now be activated to catch a Gloomy Sickle. So it happened. But there was no one in the barrier, and the representative of heaven took him off. Now, you need to take from the representative of heaven and the second eye. The Gloomy Sickle attacked again, and still fulfilled his idea. The representative of heaven activated the limiting field. This was not important. Without eyes, he is only a pair for whipping. And then, the representative began to let arrows from the world in a row for anything. At the same time, the Gloomy Sickle activated the Night of Perdition, and the arrows stopped working because the light cannot pass through darkness. It's time to finish it. The Gloomy Sickle again went on the attack. He deprived the representative of the heavens of the wing. The representative has 10% of health, but his passive skill was activated by a shining flash. Now, he is invulnerable. This phase always occurs when 10% remains. A shining flash had its duration. I acted only a few minutes, and he was soon removed. The last blow. The representative of heaven is defeated. The level of Gloomy Sickle is increased several times, plus 12,200 gold. Gloomy Sickle is the first to defeat the representative of heaven. The Gloomy Sickle also receives the enemy title of Divine Punishment, a reward for this compressed broadcast, and another rune of radiance. The compressed ether emits a rainbow radiance depending on the viewing angle, the ingredient for creating high-class objects. The rune increases the intelligence by 1 and enhances the skills of God, type by 1% per level. 3,000 gold coins were also obtained. The players began to welcome their savior. They are alive. The Gloomy Sickle showed himself as strongly as possible. The angel was struck by the power of the Gloomy Sickle. Kill the heavenly representative alone. This deserves respect. He earned recognition among the players when he said that he did it so as not to watch how others die. The narcissistic angel did not understand his motives. Yes, this did not matter for the Gloomy Sickle. Well, the round is almost over, but it is too early to relax. Depending on the results, some of the players will be destroyed. The first place again took the Gloomy Sickle. Not surprising. He struck more than 3,000 monsters. The second place is less than 1,000. The 30th level showed a sickle status window. The players did not believe their eyes. Complete madness. Gloomy Sickle receives a chest with the choice of a special reward and a coupon to choose a rare rank ring. That is necessary. The choice of Gloomy Sickle fell on the resistance ring. It provided resistance to status effects. Further, the choice of a special reward, 4,000 gold. Now it is more necessary. Indeed, in the fourth round, as I knew, Sickle would not be. So, everyone who in the ranking below 1,225th places retire. And again the panic began, but nothing could be done. The players began to disappear. Rin woke up in her bed, returned. She survived the third round. I also received a call class. You need to try it right now. Rin called her fairy. A winged, small creature appeared. This cutie acts as a bodyguard and a shield for the player. During the last waves, the fairy helped Rin a lot, and she is alive to a greater extent, precisely thanks to her. And also with a Rin B top 3 players of its region. Her reward is a mana stone. Rin was thinking about giving him a gloomy serp in gratitude for salvation in the last round. Immediately upon returning home, Kavan Yunming tried to bring himself into shape. Because of the fine, all its characteristics fell half, and the gloomy sickle is guilty of everything, if he only knew in advance. From his thoughts, he was distracted by a message to the phone. After reading Yun Min, I realized that he was the end, Kim Si-kan called. One of those friends whom he forced to destroy the artifact. Of course, Kavan Yunming tried to explain that he had no choice, but this worried few. He betrayed his friends, and they will not forgive this. After the conversation, Yunming was very disappointed that he could lose his life. Everyone needs to tell this, but none of his former friends was more available to him. Kavan Yunming was left alone. And the head of the Department of the Academy of Sciences Sanchel again came with a report to Ma Gion Rock after the round. His class became a knight and he was at the lone level, which he told the boss. He also told about Rin and her successes. Ma Gion Rock was delighted that she was a callingman and now has a shield. Even Ma Gion Rock hinted by the Nigner that he could start a relationship with Si and Rin to enter into confidence, and Sanchel promised to think about it. It was one more thing, and Sanjay could not give the gloomy sickle the words of Ma Gion Rock due to what was happening during the round. He told the boss the whole story. Yes, Ma Gion Rock was puzzled. To defeat the representative of heaven is very strong. All the characteristics of the gloomy sickle exceed expectations, as if he knows everything in advance. Ma Gion Rock would not mind meeting him if there is such an opportunity. But you can still buy tracking skill. True, AN Sansan Age still lacked 10,000 gold coins for this. There was one more point that he almost forgot to tell the boss. Last month, someone bought up a large number of shares of Ma Gion Rock Heavenly Demon. Someone bought as much as 31% of the shares. Ma Gion Rock is surprised. The consulting price of the Heavenly Demon is 9 billion out. Someone invested 280 billion. Where did one person get so much money? Ma Gion Rock suspected his brothers. The real main shareholder, that is, Ryu Ming, was lying in bed. He was waiting for him to contact him about the shares. He was sure that he would contact. He should not do this first. Suddenly, Ryu 1 burst into the room. He was interested in how the third round went and what level Ryu Mina has. Ryu Ming did not tell the truth. This could bring problems. Therefore, he said that the 12th. I kept silent about the class at all, and here is the call. It was Ma Gion Rock. Ryu Min had to look naive so that Ma Gion Rock lost vigilance as soon as possible. Since Ryu Ming put into the company Ma Gion Rock a whole fortune, he wanted to meet him personally. They agreed on dinner. Great. Ryu Ming proposed Saturday because on Friday there was a great opportunity to get the rune of telepathy. And before this meeting, some runes are simply necessary to Rai mine. You can get runes in different ways. They can be found in certain places of some rounds of the game, or as a special reward. They can also fall out after the victory over the boss, as it was already with the gloomy sickle earlier. The rarest case is a loss after winning an ordinary monster, but this happened. But not everyone knows that it is possible to get runes in a real world, than Ryu Min and is going to do on Friday. Of course, the conditions for their receipt can be called difficult. Then Ryu Ming went to an abandoned warehouse. Soon Chan Sok-hyun will appear here. The name in the real and game world coincides. Ryu Mines can never forget it, since this is a criminal who stole his brother. Ryu won. Until now, Ryu Ming remembers the voice of this moron. He plunged that day in the past. Brother Ryumina was sitting on the cold floor with her eyes blindfolded, and Chan Sok-hyun sat near him with a knife and threatened Ryu Min. He demanded information in exchange for his brother's life. Ryu himself did not understand at all that he demanded him. Chan Sok-hyun frankly laughed at him. He knew that Ryu minds a regressor. It is not clear where, but he knew it. As it turned out, Chan Sok-hyun owned this very rune of telepathy, and he took advantage of it to lure Ryu Won, that is, brother Ryu Mina. And now I use dirty blackmail. Of course, the thoughts of Ryu Won, he knew too, and he knew everything about him. But Chan Sok-hyun did not take into account how strong Ryu Min, and lost. But after that incident, Ryu was waiting for Ryu to realize Chan Sok-hyun to realize, and the moment has come. Until now, Ryu Ming was waiting with the 11th regression to take revenge. Ryu Ming put on a mask. He is going to get the rune of telepathy this time before Chan Sok-hyun, here and now, today. Here is the vat, Juice Hyun. He carried an unconscious man on the back of a person. It was a girl. Her mouth was sealed with tape. Hands and legs are also tied with a rope. Having lowered the girl to the ground, Chan Sok-hyun freed her mouth previously, warning that she would not scream. The girl prayed for mercy and asked her to be released, but Chan Sok-hyun only mocked her. Then he sat on the karachi near the girl and laughed mockingly. The girl began to ask for forgiveness, for everything, for any oblique gaze towards Chan Sok-hyun. She did not understand why, with her so, and really she guessed. It turns out the girl simply looked wrong at Chan Juk-hyun. He is a real broken crazy. It is worth noting that on the face of Chan Sok-hyun, there were birthmarks. 2 days ago, Chan Sok-hyuk walked around the city and wondered what kind of chick he would pickard with parlors examining the girls passing by. Only this could cheer him up. At the moment, Chan Jo-hyun saw her. The girl was pretty with a wonderful waist. She passed by and Chan Sok-hyun followed her, and so they went around the corner. Having abruptly bypassing her in front, Chan Juk-hyun stood in front of the girl and blinded her with a rune of glow, which forced his body to shine. This rune is ideal for fun. Entering one of the stores, he went to the girl to the cellar. I took Americano. He cost 5,000 won. Previously, Chan Sok-hyun often visited this store, but he saw this girl for the first time. All employees quit and only worked. The owner. She was 32 years old. Accordingly, she is not a player. She liked Chan Sok-hyun, and he asked her phone number. The girl was confused, and even scared a little. She was not interested in this acquaintance. It even seemed to him that she made her face, and he said about it directly. Before she could even answer anything, like Chan Sok-hyun began to insult her and threaten her. He demanded the money back and refused coffee. Of course, she returned the money to him, and Chan Sok-hyuk left. He left, but did not forget. And he will not let the girl go. Chan Sok-hyun was extremely angry. She will pay for her arrogance and refusal. However, Chan Sok-hyun was not enough. She seemed not sincere enough. Chan Sok-hyun hit her in the face. And while Chan Sok-hyun mocked the girl, he did not notice how Ryu Ming with a scythe was ripped from behind. And he asked whether Chan Sok-hyun was sorry for the girl. There should be no one here, some kind of guy in a mask, and he also has a huge braid. What's happening? When Ryu Ming sharply waved a scythe and she harshly cut the air, Chan Sok-hyun realized that the player was in front of him. And quite a weak player. Swears on the girl, Ryu Ming gave her a chance to leave about what and said. At the same time, Chan Sok-hyun yelled so that she was sitting in place. The girl did not know what to do, who to listen to. Then Ryu Ming turned the braid with the other side, and the end of the stick charged Chan Sok-hyun right in the groin, with all the dope. The girl Ryu Ming repeated that she could be free. He will deal with Chan Sok-hyun, and she quickly ran to the door. And now, a real game will begin. Ryu Ming frankly mocked. Chan Sok-hyun was ferocious like a dragon. He screamed and spit, and began to attack Ryu Mina. As expected, not a single attack was successful. Swinging the scythe Ryu Mines, Ming deprived Chan Hyun's hand, in which he held a dagger. It was only the beginning. Chan's Juk-hyun all floated before his eyes. At such a pace, Chan Sok-hyun will not last long. You need to blind the enemy. Juk-hyun activated its strength. the poor man did not know that any light was useless against the night of death. First of all, Ryu Ming deprived Chan's Juk Hyun of wrists and feet, for which he did not understand with him, but he did not receive a clear answer. It was almost unbearable to endure this pain. Chan Sok Hyun, cowardly, thought about imprising his life, but nothing came of it. Then he began to beg that Ryu Ming finish this. But Ryu Min wanted Chan Sok Hyun to know the reason, and Ryu Ming told him exactly the story of the abduction of his brother. Of course, theoretically, this will happen in the future, therefore Chan Sok Hyun did not understand anything, but it was not important. To get the rune of telepathy, it is necessary to hear the true voice of a person. Voice walking from the heart, sincere and genuine words. If the girl remained, the rune would have got Chan Sok Hyuk. Now you need to wait for Chan Sok Hyun to die. Myself. Without the help of Ryu Mina. It turns out the rune was already at Ryu Mina. He received her when Chan Sok Hyun sincerely asked him to destroy. Now you need to check the rune. Yes, Runa was now at Ryu Mina. It allows you to hear the enemy's inner voice. The effect was manifested in a radius of 30 meters. After a couple of minutes, Chan's Juk Hyun was gone. It is necessary to take evidence with a new skill. Hidden trace. It worked. The skill removed all traces of the crime. The place was clean and empty as if nothing happened a minute ago. It is better not to leave the garbage behind. Ryu Ming received everything he wanted, so ready for tomorrow's meeting with Ma Gyeon Rock. So the day of the meeting came. Ryu Ming was preparing for dinner with Ma Gyeon Rock. He put on a new suit to cancel more solid. The younger Ryu Won even suspected that his brother may have gathered on a date with a girl, but no Ryu Ming said that he was going to meet with a business partner. However, Ryu won a little over Ryu Mina. Last time, brother invested everything in stocks, and now it is already business with business. It is dangerous to burn out. Thanks to Rune Ming heard the thoughts of Ryu Won, and he was pleased that his brother cares more about his moral condition than about money. Having promised that Ryu Ming would tell him everything later, he reassured his brother, and also asked Ryu Won to sit and wait at home because it is unsafe in the streets now because of the players. They use their strength often to commit crimes. Every month, the number of people decreases and players become stronger, so it would be strange if everything is as it was, not to mention what will happen in the future. Soon, players will track and enslave ordinary people. A whole era when players become kings, and the law is not written by them, before the lawlessness of Ryu Min should become stronger in the city. And also, Ryu Ming should gain overwhelming force and further increase the reputation of the Gloomy Sickle. In addition, Ryu won for a very long time to give out from Ryu what kind of class has. But so far, it was early and dangerous to tell someone about it. So Ryu Ming stood at the hotel, who chose Ma Gyeon Rock for a meeting. Today's meeting place was a hotel under the leadership of Posno Group, but in fact, she belongs to Ma Gyeon Rock. Of course, this is confidential information, and it is quite possible that Ryu Min is the only one who knows it. Unless, besides the relatives of Ma Gyeon Rock, you need to use this information to the maximum. But before that, Ryu Min needs to create an image for yourself. Look as naive as possible. The boss was not in place yet, and the secretary invited Ryu Mina to sit down and wait a bit. And then, Aen Sanchel came to him, and he immediately recognized Ryu Mina. When he was with a Rin Ryu, Ming and his brother came with rice cakes, and Sanchel immediately apologized for his rude behavior that day. There was no mine in appearance to Ryu and 20 years old, and Sanchel was amazed, and this is the main holder of the shares, spent 280 billion. Ryu Ming pretended to be a fool. I pretended that I thought it was the director. It is necessary not to cause suspicion. Then Aen Sanchel introduced himself as the director of the department. Mr. Hyong Rock must arrive a little later, and Aen Sanchel invited Ryu Mina to the office. Leaving Ryu Mina at the negotiating table, Aen Sanchel asked him to wait a couple of minutes again. When he went out, he wrote Ma Gyeon Rock SMS with a request to be on the alert because Ryu Ming does not look rich, and obviously someone stands behind him. The fact that Ma Gyeong Rock will send A of the Academy of Sciences to the meeting first as intelligence Ryu Ming knew in advance. Not surprising. After all, just like that, Ma Gyeong Rock would never have been late for a meeting. I did not have to wait long. Ma Gyeong Rock was already here. With a shining smile, he greeted Ryu Mina. He also introduced himself. and Sanchel also remained. This was not liked by Ryu Min because Ma Gyeon-rock did not even ask his opinion. Before moving on to business, Ma Gyeon-rock suggested support. He ordered Korean cuisine in advance. There was a lot of food, and the presentation was rich. Ryu Ming was happy to eat. In the process of dinner, Ma Gyeon-rock stealthily examined Ryu Mina and also came to the conclusion that he was too young to invest 280 billion. Apparently, someone stands behind him. Perhaps relatives. You need to get to the bottom of the truth. Ma Gyeon-rock asked Ryu Mina about his age. Ryu Mini 20. Ma Gyeon-rock was already 29 years old. Then he directly asked Ryu Min from where he got so much money. Pretty straightforward on his part. Ryu Ming directly said that he was the person who won the lottery 4 times in a row and about which they trumpeted in all the news. But in the articles, only about 6 billion out of the articles, where Ryu got 280 billion. Here, Ryu Ming also did not hide his pampering with bitcoins. Having decided to go the bank because this was the only chance to convince Ma Gyeon-rock to stand on his side, Ryu minuted and reported that he had a rune of the future, and that supposedly this rune allows you to look a few years ahead. In other words, allegedly, Ryu Ming sees the future. The interlocutors, Ryu Mina, stunned at him. Everything was poorly believed in this. Ma Gyeon-rock wanted evidence. Since Ryu Ming heard thoughts Ma Gyeon-rock, it was easier than a simple one. However, just in case, a restriction should be imposed on this ability for the future, and Ryu Ming said that he could not control it. Visions come themselves. And also Ryu Ming said that he invested money in the company Heavenly Demon precisely because in the future it will grow and develop, and within 6 months it will easily fall into the list of Zitsa. Thoughts Ma Gyeon-rock feverishly ran. He can show his father what he can not only see what his son achieved, but also appointed Ma Gyeon-rock with the next chairman. However, according to the assurances of Ryu Mina, to achieve the success of Ma Gyeon-rock, you will have to completely rebuild your sphere. And San Soldai, all this was wildly outraged, and he began to scream at Ryu Mina. How he dares to put forward such stupid and risky ideas. But Ryu himself did not lose his composure and confirmed that if you change the sphere, then you need to change the name. And since both of his interlocutors were players, they knew about the punishment for the use of such runes. Therefore, he was not up to jokes and bothering. All the same, An Sanchel was on the verge. He did not understand why this boy allows himself so much. He was very hoping that Ma Gyeon-rock did not believe Ryu Min and would not follow his lead. Then Ryu Ming, hinted by an alarmist, that he was not in vain settled next door to Rin. This is not just a coincidence. By the way, Ma Gyeon-rock now heard about this for the first time. The fact that An Sanchel was silent about this a lot angered Ma Gyeon-rock. Already almost 2 months have passed, and yet, despite all the facts, Ma Gyeon-rock still did not fully believe Ryu Min. Ryu Min himself, who read thoughts, Ma Gyeon-rock continued his performance, and almost no one knew such facts. The fact that this hotel belongs to Ma Gyeon-rock, that he is the eldest son of a group, and that he created a heavenly demon to impress his father. It was all true. And Sanchel jumped up and demanded to explain where it really is all Ryu Min. But Ma Gyeon-rock besieged the head of the department. Still, this is not enough to believe. Any of the relatives of Ma Gyeon-rock could stand behind this. Ma Gyeon-rock even had suspicions who could do this. He was not ready to believe the word Ryu Min, and suggested that this question be, that is, the question of changing the sphere to a meeting of shareholders. After this statement, Ma Gyeon-rock was going to leave, but Ryu Ming asked for another minute. He had no choice. They will have to tell them about the 4th round. Without a doubt, this information was very interesting. And Ryu Ming spoke about the terrible tragedy, supposedly from his visions. After the meeting was completed, An Sanchel apologized to the director for his incontinence, and he also expressed the opinion that it is impossible to trust completely a Ryu, and all his words are doubtful as much as possible. Yes, the risk was very great. Ma Gyeon-rock understood. But what if Ryu Min still does not lie? Moreover, the rune of which he spoke really exists. If all this is true, Ryu minds will be extremely useful. The thoughtful Ryu Ming was returning home. After the end of the 4th round, Ma Gyeon-rock and An Sanchel will understand that he was right and believe that the seer. He did not tell the really important information about additional quests or how to get into the top. In the fourth round, there will be no hunting for monsters, only a real massacre between the players. And the associates should be selected very carefully. That's all he said. But this should be enough to believe him. In addition, after that, Mugyeon Rock and even A of the Academy of Sciences of Sanchel will be different about Ryu Min. And they will believe that he is a real visionary, and it is better to keep such a person closer to him. And since now Ryu Min needs to pretend to be a seer, you can use this in full, and he dialed Ju Ri. The girl was a little late. Even the Spaethor seemed to spit it down more slowly than usual. Crossing the road by Ju Ri saw a beautiful red car, an overwhelming entrance to the store. What a disgusting way of parking. Need to complain. Getting closer, Ju Ri saw that Ryu Min was driving. Wow, what a gorgeous machine. Even greater surprise for Ju Ri was that Ryu Ming invited her to eat and ride and chat. Of course, Ju Ri immediately agreed. On the road, Ju Ri, with admiration, noticed that she was going on for such a chic car for the first time. She asked Ryu Min how much she costs. The price was 900 million. Ju Ri opened her mouth in surprise. With this money, it would be possible to open with a dozen round-the-clock stores, if not more. But Ryu Min noticed that if you take into account how much he won in the lottery, then this is a small amount for him. Ju Ri had the feeling that they are now completely of different worlds. But still, it was very similar to a date. Ryu Min came specifically for her. Ju Ri was a little embarrassed by this, but very pleased. At some point, when Ryu Ming said that he wanted to make a recognition of Ju Ri, even thought that he would say about his sympathy in her direction. But everything turned out to be completely wrong. Ryu Ming continued his game, and with Ju Ri reporting that he owns the rune of the future, and he allegedly lied about sleep and numbers. And now, supposedly, Ryu Mina is a class. Since this class was unique, Ju Ri was shocked, and I was delighted for Ryu Mina. Ju Ri congratulated him, and also thanked Ryu Mina for telling the truth. As she thought. After such frankness, Ju Ri thought about telling Ryu Mine about the nature of her rune, and Ryu himself knew exactly this was necessary. It turns out if, for example, there are 5 people around it, then 5 barriers protect it. And yet, Ju Ri was wondering why Ryu Ming revealed her secret to her first. According to him, it was necessary that she believes that Ryu Ming would say further. And then Ryu Ming told Ju Ri about the task of the 4th round, and he asked her to be careful. You always need to be on the alert. After all, no one knows what is happening in the head of the surrounding players. Although the recognition was not entirely what Ju Ri was counting on, she was glad that Ryu Min was taking care of her. He also called the first. Perhaps he still has some kind of warm feelings. She really wants to believe it. During the trip, Ryu first learned about the sympathy of Ju Ri to him. Now, when he knows how to read thoughts, she liked him all this time and did not even suspect. Sympathy was not mutual, and even Ryu Mina was a little nervous, but still, it was even for the better. It will be easier for him to lure Ju Ri to his side, and she will probably believe in the prophecy of Ryu Mina. All this bothered Ryu Mina a little, but it was necessary to rest at least a little of this month. He finished the most important things. Ryu Ming lay down in bed and fell asleep. Time flew by unnoticed. Already on the night of 31st March, 2023 years. 5 minutes were left to the new round, and Ryu Ming decided to purchase an epic thing of the day. Shadow Gloves of Darkness. They give a good boost and the ability with translucent. Most likely, the effectiveness of gloves will still grow if they are used together with the Night of Death. Ryu 1 listened to the door and informed his elder brother that it was already time. The 4th round will begin. The 4th round could be fatal, no matter how strong Ryu Min, but Ryu waited for him, and he was obliged to survive and return. And here they are, here again. Kavan Yun Min grabbed his head. That's right, the fine worked. All his abilities are reduced by 50%. At any time, old friends or those who want to become a representative of the region can come for him. By the way, where are they all? A new strange place, crystally clean white street, and some incomprehensible white blocks around. Not far from Kavan Yun Mina stood a gloomy sickle. It was he who persuaded Yun Mina to destroy the relic. He is to blame for everything, but there is no choice. Approaching the gloomy Serpa Yun Ming reminded of the agreement, but the gloomy sickle grinned that he did not need a 6 anymore. Kavan Yun Ming was covered with cold later. Now, he is just a walking target. But in fact, few people are interested in Yun Min. Even if Yoon Min had the tokens remained, he could not do anything. Most players have a class, and now it is impossible to manipulate them. He is useless. They were headed by Academy of Sciences Sanho and Rin. This was scared by Kavan Yunmina, but they just came to thank the gloomy sickle once again. But that was not all. For the salvation of her life, Rin brought a gift to the gloomy Serpa as planned, the purple stone of mana of the highest rank. This was a surprise for a gloomy sickle. Gloomy sickle expected to get this stone the least. It was a magnificent object, and gloomy sickle accepted it without hesitation. Upon his return, he will try to make him stones of mana lower rank. And Rin could not understand whether the gloomy Serpa liked her gift. She did not know about his real value. Otherwise, she would most likely not have given him away. Yunmin also had a similar stone. He also knew little about his properties. Black diamond. The gloomy sickle read the thoughts of Hwan Yunmina. Black diamond is a rare stone falling after the destruction of monsters. It is much more difficult to get this stone than finding mana stones. It is impossible to get it in this round. It is successful that the gloomy sickle now knows that Hwan Yunmina has him. Also, Rin offered the services of a protective dome as she received the classroom class. But the gloomy sickle refused. He will not need a dome. Once again, thanking the gloomy sickle with a Rin and An Sanho left. And Kavan Yun Minch sickle advised not to go far from him, since now that target is for everyone. And again, the gloomy sickle offered his help. Of course not for free, and Yun hinted a mind that if he had something like what he gave with a Rin. And Yun Min immediately gave a stone to the Serpa without suspecting anything. But since the gloomy sickle always keeps his word now, he will protect Hwan Yunmina from other players. So the angel appeared again. Everything is in place. There are even fewer people. In the real world, not without incident, which is not surprising in principle. It was time to reveal the task of the 4th round. And the task is to restore each other in 3 hours. Of the 1,042 players, only 512 people will be able to go further. Shock and panic covered everyone. The angel was delighted with the panic of players. It will be fun. The purpose of this round is simply reducing the number of players by half, and there will be no monsters. It upsets some because they are needed to raise the level. There was another secret condition, but players will learn about him a little later. The gloomy sickle knew that in this game, angels only guides, and someone is stronger behind them. If angels hide some rules, then they ordered them to do this. Only the first 512 people will be able to survive. But the distribution of ranks is a secret so far. The bottom line is that simply the destruction of the player will not raise someone in place higher. But for now, this is all the information that the angel provided. The game has begun. And while most of the players wrestled with the torment of conscience and the moral principles of Yun Min, understood that it costs nothing to him. Remember someone. There is even someone in mind. As the gloomy sickle Hwan Yunming thought was aiming at his friends, he was angry with them all. They betrayed him. A gloomy sickle came up behind Yun Min. He came to fulfill his promise and prevent the victim of other players. The condition was verbatim, after all, and a sharp movement neutralized him himself. And thus, the gloomy sickle completed an additional task that was to get rid of the representative of the region as it turned out later. A reward for this token, for a draw of stone of the lower rank. That was what the gloomy sickle wanted, and the people around began to condemn him. How hypocritical. All the same, they will have to do it too. But while everyone is pretending to be holy, they criticize the gloomy sickle, knowing this perfectly. But the gloomy sickle did not worry. The round began. Although some of the players were already thinking about trampling the reputation of a gloomy sickle. If they attack together, they will be able to win. Of course, the gloomy sickle read their thoughts and considered it funny. He was not afraid of anyone. So the gloomy sickle becomes a representative of the region. The players were afraid. He is so dangerous and now also in power. And then everyone noticed that the color of Nick's gloomy sickle was replaced by red. In such rounds, this happens after the first destruction, and the more you destroy, the darker the nickname. Only the gloomy sickle knew about it. Usually, first of all, they attack those who have a dark nickname. After all, this is an assassin. And people are not so tormented by conscience. Indeed, in their opinion, they perform justice. But in any case, the circle is gradually closing sooner or later. It was all orderly annoyed by a gloomy sickle. He openly expressed his thought. Everyone knew perfectly well that it would be so. Why build saints out of yourself? Sooner or later, there will still be less and less. This is logical, everyone for himself. Not the time to build innocent sheep. The players began to argue what to do. Maybe voting and maybe honest battles one-on-one. There must be some kind of logical output. Frightened by the prospect of depriving someone to life, and Rin and San-ho, who thought more sensibly, confirmed the one that the sickle said. After all, the main thing now is their life, and not the life of strangers. The stupid, the Sanchel, was completely agreeing with a gloomy sickle, therefore rushed with a Rin with a decision. After all, it was also necessary to make a choice. With whom to start? Well, this will be seen from the situation. So far, only disputes sharpened. Some players started quarrels among themselves. The situation was heated. Arguing about who deserves more to the permit, serious scandals flared up. The gloomy sickle who saw this was not the first time knew that no matter how now everyone was pretending to be saints, soon they will begin to fight and destroy each other as nice. Given the fact that there is no choice in any case, you. Suddenly the unimaginable happened. Kwon Yun Min got up and sat down. The shock of players cannot be conveyed. They did not know that this was a hidden condition of the fourth round. 10 minutes after his death, the player is resurrecting. Absolutely all the players stood silently and watched the stunned Kwon Yun Min. No one could understand what was happening and how it is generally possible. Yun Ming himself did not understand why everyone is looking at him. He did not even know that he was not just in a disconnection. The last thing Kwon Yun Min remembered is a conversation with a gloomy sickle. He was infuriated that everything was stolen, and then people began to shout that he was risen. And of course, most have the idea that since the system resurrects the players, then it's okay if they begin to humiliate each other, and then it began. The first of the players attacked another. Everyone was waiting for a miracle, and so. 10 minutes later, the girl rose as well as Kwon Yun Min, but no one dared to beat further. So indecisive. The gloomy sickle stood and silently watched them. However, at one point, the most decisive spit on everyone began to attack, for all without analysis. No one has experienced the sense of pity or torment of conscience. The ruthless battle continued without interrupting. About 1,000 players staged a real massacre. Perhaps now it's time to join the game, and gloomy sickle. You can't waste time, and he went forward. This is exactly what a group of players who conspired. They had long had a plan to communicate to remove potentially the strongest opponent in all regions. They attacked the three of them on a sickle. But there was no chance to catch the gloomy sickle while the discovery rune was working. These three were already lying on the ground. Nearby, the gloomy sickle replaced the dragon of black flame. With his absorption rune, these were ideal conditions. Given the color of the Nick dragon of the black flame, he ruined at least 10 players. Nick was Bargiano red. What was logical after the destruction of the players? The statistics of those who won the growing. This was noticed in the status window and the dragon of black flame. He knew that it worked with monsters, but he did not suspect that he would also work with the players. The scale of his absorption runes grew with each destroyed player, and then the dragon of the black plamny had the idea of attacking a gloomy sickle. If you destroy it, then all its characteristics will increase to heaven given the level of the sickle. On the other hand, to attack the gloomy sickle was too risky. Therefore, while the dragon of the black flame threw this thought and focused on ordinary players, this round was ideal for the dragon of black flame. He perceived it as a kind of anti-stress. He, with rapture and incredible pleasure and cruelty, deprived the players of life one after another without a break. Others are so weak, and the dragon of black flame saw in this round the excellent opportunity to pump all his skills at once. His absorption rune was filled more than half, more precisely, its scale. The fact that the players resurrected over and over again was very convenient for pumping their skills and strength. There was no time to miss, the battle without stopping for a second. The task that the dragon of the black flame set himself is to break into the top of the best players. Apparently, he needs to earn points as much as possible. Suddenly, in front of the dragon of black flame, a gloomy sickle appeared from nowhere. And without unnecessary conversations, he used the Night of Death. The darkness has come. Players who were temporarily blinded in a radius of action. The dragon of black flame himself did not understand anything like everything around. It was also not clear to him why the braid's spit became translucent. Actually, the dragon did not have time to think anything, because he was deprived of his head. Also, Kwon Yun-min was extremely confused all this time. After the resurrection, it took him time to realize what was happening around. And when he realized his joy, there was no bounds. You can take a walk without afraid not to come to life. In addition, for Kwon Yun-mina, this was the perfect chance to get even with former friends who turned away from him after the third round. He is ready to erase them all into powder. And then Kwon Yun-ming went to search for them, the first to find Kim St. Khan. Without hesitation, Kwon Yun-ming attacked him with all his fury. It's time to move on. If hell exists, then it probably looks like this place. These were thoughts with Rin. She was not physically tired, but was morally exhausted. Rin was not created in order to deprive people of life. The partner with Rin, Sanchel, saw her condition, but could not help. She only prevented him from fulfilling the task. In addition to his tasks, the Academy of Sciences of San Plant had to defend the players from the attacks of the players. Unfortunately, Rin was morally weak for this task, and his task is to help her. Therefore, since she could not choose the sacrifice of the An Sanchel, held the players, and she collected the willpower, deprived their lives. The nerves of Rin could no longer withstand, and it was necessary to hold out for another hour. And San, extremely enraged the weakness with Rin, and how she built an innocent flower. In fact, she had already gained about 50 victims, and this was enough to go further most likely. Now the rest of An Sanchel will do it on his own and earn his glasses. So this is even for the better. So now An Sanchel can completely focus on his account and skills, finally. And now, until the end of the fourth round, only 10 minutes remain. Even the gloomy sickle, these 3 hours, exhausted the order. But he does not have to take the reward in the regions every round. It doesn't matter what will happen up to the 20th round inclusive, after all. And so, gloomy sickle will still continue to develop. No one has a way to find out how strong the final boss is. Therefore, it is important for gloomy Serpas to be stated to the maximum. By the way, no one except him knew that the number of life deprived of life in this round had no meaning. It was important not to repeat and take into account your victims. Kwon Yun-min did not know this, who, in addition to others, deprived his life and his former friends over and over again. Lucky if he can survive at the end of the fourth round. There was only 1 minute before the end of the round. There is very little time left, and you need to get more points. Gloomy sickle accelerated. Time has passed. Players illuminated the soft yellow light out of somewhere on top. The angel returned. As always, the angel was cheerful and enjoyed what was happening below. The snow, white canvas that became the place of massacre, was now red. Before announcing the results, all players were lively. Everyone gradually woke up. Their wounds dragged on. The limbs returned to their places. Friends of Kwon Yun-mina also came to life and were very angry with him. They did not blame anything to earn because of him. Time to announce the results. But before that, you need to see what additional task was. And it was so that it was necessary to destroy the representative of the region, and only a gloomy sickle coped with the task. For which, as a reward, I received a token for a mana stone. The rest, of course, did not even suspect such a condition. Players noticed the fact that the gloomy sickle destroyed Kwon Yun-mina almost at the beginning of the round. It was suspicious. Kwon Yun-ming only now learned that it was precisely the gloomy sickle that destroyed him. And then the players learned that their place in the ranking does not depend on the number of destroyed in general, but on the number of unique units. That is, it was important not to devote the life of the same, and the same, but the same. Everything turned out to be even more difficult than originally. And again, the gloomy sickle was the first. Moreover, not only in its area, even the angel was a little surprised. Again, the gloomy sickle is the first everywhere. It turns out, gloomy sickle alone destroyed 722 people. This is 70% of all dead players. Just incredible. As a reward, he receives a coupon to choose a rare armor. A rare armor of medium rank is exactly what a gloomy Serpa needed. It was time to change your own. He chose a bloody red assassin costume. Among other things, he raises some skills to the player. Then there was a choice of a special reward. The gloomy sickle who knew what would happen in the 5th round, and that he would be very difficult to choose all the characteristics by 50%. When everyone checked their places, it became clear that only 30 people from the region took places up to 521st. The rest will be excluded. Cleaning has begun. People disappeared. Surprisingly, not only with a Rin and An Sancel, but also Huan Yunming with great difficulty went further. The next round will begin exactly in a month. The players again returned to their bodies in the real world. Magyeon Rock woke up in his hotel room. He was awakened by the An Sanchel, who burst into him with fright. And Sanchel could not get through to the boss for a long time and rushed to find out if he was all right. Of course, Magyeon Rock was in order. In his area, he was again in the top. And Sanchel sighed calmly. The fourth round was complete madness. Fatigue made itself felt, but Ma Gyeon Rock could not help but ask a question that excited all the players. What a monster is a gloomy sickle. He is ruthless and as if completely invincible. Perhaps he is a member of the Special Purpose Detachment or someone from South Korea with high skills. Neither Ma Gyeon Rock nor the Academy of Sciences of San AJ had a response, but if it would be possible to cooperate with him in real life, that would have reassured it very much. After all, no matter how gloomy, Sickle cannot but admire his skills. The next time, Ma Gyeon Rock intended to ask about the gloomy sickle of the seer Ryu Mina. By the way, all the predictions of Ryu Mina were fulfilled. He warned Ma Gyeon Rock and of the Academy of Sciences of the massacre between the players. Now, they will have to dance under his tune and do everything he says. In addition, almost the whole company is in his hands. But this is not at all upset by Ma Gyeon Rock. The main thing is that he can now use all the benefits of the gift of a seer Ryu Mina, and he ordered the Academy of Sciences of Sanjia to be careful with him. In addition to this, Ma Gyeon Rock decided to invite Ryu Mina and his family if there is a festive dinner due to their victory. Of course, Rin is also worth calling. A celebrity with them in the company will not interfere. Ryu himself. Min himself was already waiting for Ju Ri near the cafe. He invited her to have lunch. Ryu Ming was in his car. While they were traveling to the destination of Juru, Ryu Mina for his prediction. After all, if he had not told her that she needed to destroy at least 30 different players, she would not have sat in his car now. But Ryu Ming knew that even without his warning, she would have coped thanks to the rune of protection. In addition, it is quite resourceful. If you compare it with the Rinji Ri grown in the greenhouse, it was a persistent weed. At dinner, Juri did not stop thanking Ryu Mina for help and for money. Her thoughts wandered around that she was not worthy of being here. If Ryu Ming would not call, she would not leave the house at all. She ruined so many lives in this round. Juri tormented his conscience. Ryu Ming knew her thoughts. Yes, this was not the need to read on the face. He tried to reassure Juri. After all, everyone had to make this a choice between their life and a stranger. The choice is obvious. Juri understood this, but it was still hard for her to come to terms. Then Ryu Ming recalled what they do, not only for themselves. A brother is waiting for him and her father. A reminder of his father made Ju-ri pull himself together. After all, the truth. He has no one except her. Father will not survive if she does not return. Once again, Juru thanked Ryu Mina for bringing her into a sensity. They started dinner. The appetite returned to Ju-ri. And when they started to dessert, Ryu Ming said that he called Ju-ri again, not just like that, but to tell about the 5th round. Allegedly, he saw the future again, and the fact that the 5th round will be much more complicated than the rest, and that all areas are united. Juri asked about whether they would meet then. Ryu Min lied, saying that no. In fact, they will cross. But she can't know who he is in the game. You need to be more cunning. The 5th level will be folded as much as possible, and perhaps Ju-ri will not be able to pass it, according to Ryu Mina. Her chance is a gloomy sickle. That's what Ryu Min told her. She must find a sickle and ask for help. This prospect was seriously scared by Ji-ri. She heard a lot about the gloomy sickle and was afraid of him. It is unlikely that he will just help her. But Ryu Ming had in mind more than help, through the alliance for the sake of general survival. And since Ju-ri has an increase in Ryu Ming, Ju-ji-ri, that the gloomy sickle will definitely agree. Ryu Ming also told her that the gloomy sickle would agree to get unwritten, not only in this level, but also at the following, since her skill is unique and delightful. He saw this in the future. He continued his performance with providence. For this information, Jiri was also incredibly grateful to Ryu Min. She knew one way to thank him, at least a little, Taking Ryumina by the hands of Jujlu, used on her own and raised his skills for a while. He knew that it would be so, and he needed it now. They said goodbye and went home. Now when Ryu Ming received the blessing of Ju Ri and gained the maximum number of destruction for the rune of the massacre, you need to see how much his skills in the status window increased. Good luck is now 84. It should turn out. And Ryu Ming used a token to draw a stone of the lower rank. An ordinary person in this situation would pray to the gods to be given good stones, but Ryu Ming was sure that the gods were standing behind this game and mocking people enjoying their suffering. They were not good creatures. And if Ryu Ming reaches the end of the game and any of his desires will be fulfilled, he will pray so that people finally understand it. They realized the true larva of these gods who created this terrible game. After using the Rue of the Minute, the maximum possible number of low-ranking stones fell, as many as 5 pieces of different colors and properties. This is all a killer dose of good luck. Now, you need to unite them. When combining the stones of mana of the same color and the level, you can strengthen them. Then Ryu Min and took up. Then Ryu Ming began to add different objects, strengthening them, and also strengthening all its characteristics. He definitely knew what and how to do. Using all the stones of mana to combine the gloomy sickle became even stronger, and all his skills became higher. It was time to prepare for a meeting with Ma Gyeon Rock. Ru Ming also told about this meeting the younger brother Ryu Vaughn, and he decided to take him with him as a family member. Hearing a bell at the door of Ru Min dangled Ryu Won along. They have already gathered. This is the Ansan Chel to spend them. The limousine was already waiting for them near the entrance, and now they are all ready at the Hotel Magyeon Rock. The owner met them personally at the entrance, then showed his respect. And of course, Magyeon Rock expressed his congratulations to Ryu Minu that he survived. Ryu Ming introduced his younger brother. He was only 14, and he was not a player, as Ma Gyeon Rock recognized. The guests were held in the dining room, where a rich table was set. The waiter served them. It was just gorgeous. What was not on the table? The younger brother Ryu Mina Ryu won in all eyes. He never saw such chic, and he did not even dream of this. As the hospitable owner, Ma Gyeon Rock invited the brothers to the table. They were all about to start a meal as the door opened. Entered with a Rin. She was insanely beautiful with her stained hair and in a new black dress. I was a little late with a Rin because I was at the funeral of my colleague who died in the game. She apologized for that. Rin introduced herself and suddenly realized that somewhere she had already seen these two guys. They brought cakes a couple of months ago, her new neighbors. Ryu Won stood as for the first time struck by seeing a celebrity so close, and Rin was also surprised at Ryu Ming could be the main shareholder. Seeing the impression of the SOA Rin on his guests, Ma Gyeon Rock realized how he did the right thing by inviting her. In the end, the seer is young and should be interested in girls. He is also a man. Everyone exactly was assembled now and sat down at the table. Ryu Won did not stop admiring everything around. Food was also incredibly tasty and refined. Ryu Won was surprising how Ma Gyeon Rock respectfully refers to Ryu Min. It was unusual for him that his brother now occupies such a high place in society and in business in proportion. Also Ma Gyeon Rock. It was interesting where the rest of the relatives of his chief shareholder. Why did he come only with his brother? Ryu Ming said that he and his brother have no one but each other. The reigning of an awkward silence. The atmosphere was slightly spoiled, and Ma Gyeon Rock was angry with himself for the inappropriate question. At the table, despondency reigned. Everyone was a little uneasy. It was necessary to urgently save the situation. And then Ma Gyeon Rock asked Rin to give him a minute, and led him. He brought her into the corridor, and in a very rude manner, hinted that she was not just to eat here, but in order to maintain a positive atmosphere. Frightened with a Rin apologized, and admitted that she thought that it was really just a friendly meeting. Then Ma Gyeon Rock told her that Ryu Min is not just the main shareholder, but also a seer, and he needs special attention. Rin was taken aback. Seer. In short, Ma Gyeon Rock described her the situation and the importance of Ryu Mina. It was important for them that he would tell about the next round, or will not tell if everything goes wrong. Assent to smile. But Rin must do anything that Ryu Ming should be crazy about her. Rin began to refuse, but Ma Gyeon Rock directly said that it was time to repay for helping Rin in career growth. This was all not in the Rin rules and contradicted her upbringing and moral principles, but apparently she had no choice again. And she agreed. Returning to the Magyarán Rock Hall, he informed those present that he had a couple of moments of workers, and since already all had dinner, he proposed to continue the party in another place, who has shown a very great interest in CO, and Rin is Ryu 1. He was her big fan and asked for a photo as a keepsake. She naturally agreed. Since Magyarán Rock could not transfer tasks with and Rin, she received SMS from him. They needed to change tactics, and now the main task of the actress was to bring closer to the younger brother Ryu Mina Ryu Vol. Browned with a Rin could not believe that she would have to do this, put on an innocent fan. But according to the plan, Magyarán Rock, so that the elder will take their side to the youngest, should be on the hook. To continue the entertainment evening, Magyarán Rock brought everyone to his VIP room. He offered to drink something relaxing. Both brothers and Ryu Min and Ryu won alcohol. Ryu 1 was still too small, and Ryu Min was mildly not in the mood. He asked Rin to take a picture with his brother outside. Looking restlessly with a Rin and Ryu, they left. Ryu Ming sharply turned towards Magyarán Rock with undisguised irritation, and he directly asked if he was considering him an idiot. After all, Ryu minds. And it is logical that he saw in advance the conversation of Magyarán Rock with a Rin. What is the meanness of Magyarán Rock? It was unexpected for Magyarán Rock. He was confused. Now Ryu Ming will not be able to trust him and cooperate with him fully. Still not finding the necessary words, Magyarán Rock could not understand how Ryu Min could find out about this conversation. This is impossible. And Ryu continued. If the rapprochement with him, it still went, then the retraction into it was all his brother. Without inventing anything better than Magyarán Rock, he began to apologize, and Ryu Ming gave him another chance to decide to pretend that there was nothing so. There was another unresolved question. But now Magyarán Rock did not dare to ask about this after offended Ryu Mina, and Ryu Ming began the conversation first, pretending that Ryu Ming was very offended in what Magyarán Rock and his company want to help now. The same continued to crumble in apologies, and Ryu Ming made the last warning that Magyarán Rock should completely trust him and never hide anything again. Having discussed these moments, Ryu Min nevertheless told Magyarán Rock that the 5th round will be much more complicated than the previous ones. The task will be the destruction of 300 orcs. But these are not all conditions. In addition, the onlyation of the regions will occur. Magyarán Rock immediately thought about the prospect of meeting with a gloomy sickle. Ryu Ming said that Magyarán Rock would face him soon. And of course, he lied that his personality is a riddle for him too. There was also a moment what Ryu Ming wanted to discuss. He learned that Magyarán Rock was following Huan Yun Min after pursuit with a Rin, and he forbade him to do this without explaining the reason. In fact, Ryu Ming did this because Huan Yun Min can still be useful for him. Magyarán Rock obeyed and promised not to touch Yun Mina, and they returned to the celebration. A frightened man fled along a wet, rainy street. His hand is injured, and he fled from someone. Magyarán Rock, catching up to him with a sword in hand, cut off his legs and mercilessly continued the slaughter. After all, that's exactly what is done to criminals. The lying man screamed and asked for mercy, but Magyarán Rock did not stop. To use dark magic, he needed a dark aura that can be obtained only by taking the lives of others. In addition, dark magic required reloading, and it was more effective to take life from criminals. He always liked to believe justice. Apparently, this is his calling to be a Dark Knight. When the man stopped moving the Dark Knight to bring his sword to the body and tried to absorb him. But dark magic needs alive. There should be no witnesses. Magyarán Rock specially lured the man as far as possible around the corner. Only a seer could know about this, and most likely he knew and still made a deal with a serial assassin. Suspicious. Then Magyarán Rock dialed the number of the Academy of Sciences of the S and Equipment and called him to cover the traces. There is no need to deal with such trifles personally. There is a servant for this. 2 weeks passed after a party with Magyarán Rock. Most of the time, Ryu Ming was sitting at home since there was nothing to do so far, and given the future, such a vacation was simply necessary. But it was time to take a step and get one of the runes that could be found in the real world, the rune of incarnation. Soon, she will explain. One of the participants in the game leafed through the news feed. He was amused by the news about the dead, about riots and strife among the population. He considered it fair to do what to think after they were drawn into this unrighteousness. He considered himself an excellent creature because he was a player, so he had the right to everything. he stood among a heap of bodies, of people who deprived his life. His nervous system was clearly out of order. Although in life this guy looked like a weak, thick hut with glasses in the game, he was a black dragon on his right hand, one of their best in their field. On the internet, he found a group where you could meet real players and fight. First, you had to go through a real interview, where the dragon went and filling out the form on the internet. The meeting should take place in the Waifu Cafe. There was this institution in such a wilderness where the buses do not even go. The dragon was annoyed by this fact. Inside the cafe, only one table was busy at which two were sitting, a middle-aged man and a guy in a hood of a pink sweatshirt. The man introduced himself. His nickname is 30. This statement greatly struck the dragon. After all, players can be a maximum of 29. The player explained that he was just so much, but he looked much older. They sat down at the table. There were not even none of the staff around. The black dragon on his right hand thought about the fact that if right now it ends with them, then there are not even cameras that they could shoot him. But he will not do this yet. As it turned out, they expect another candidate before starting an interview. Only 3 interviewers were planned. This was very surprised by the black dragon on his right hand. He expected a crowd of people. And here is the third participant. They saw at the entrance of a young guy in a black business suit, and he introduced himself like a gloomy sickle. The organizer of the meeting gasped and covered with small later. A few days ago, the organization held an online conference. It was a weekly meeting of their group. They discussed the fact that despite the fact that the number of players is less and less, applications to the group only increase. This was due to the fact that she, from the participants of Yamti, had the necessary connections among the press and managed to draw public attention to their group. Now, there are 2,000 applications, but after weeming players without a class and a level below the 10th, there is less. Then there were discussions of promising candidates, among whom was a black dragon on his right hand. If he does not lie about his achievements, then he can become a candidate for leadership. In general, there were a lot of talented players, and apparently the interviews will take more time than anyone expected. And it was very important for them to attract the attention of a gloomy sickle. He is even ready to give way to the leader. And of course, Yamti will do everything in her power. Of course, for a decent payment for your work. They were ready to continue the discussion as an application for an entry, just filed a gloomy sickle. Everyone was in shock. A player of this level did not pay attention to their community. Work with journalists was not in vain. And now, 30 is already conducting an interview for him in a cafe. They sat at the table and played among themselves. The guy in a black suit, who introduced himself as a gloomy sickle, did not even imagine what. That in fact, the guy who was introduced as a kokomakamak is a real gloomy sickle. It will be fun. Now Ryu Min was funny to observe how this moron was making himself a gloomy sickle. The black dragon on his right hand was also surprised that the gloomy sickle did not recognize him after losing his life 5 times. As a person who knows how to read thoughts, Ru Ming knew that this swindler is actually called Korpanop. He is an experienced and professional fraudster who tried almost all types of scams on which you can earn. Now, he is not remarkable, and later receiving the rune of incarnation will become famous. Just not from the good side, but from the bad, because he used this rune for all kinds of crimes. It was very lucky that Ryu Ming met him first. Criminals should not receive steel from another world. The rune of embodiment will be in the gloomy sickle this time. Meanwhile, the interview began. Ryu Ming was played by the role of Keum Hyuna, and Corpinon continued to pretend to be a gloomy sickle. We checked all the data and characteristics from the submitted applications. It was not just funny to pretend to be another player, and it is necessary to obtain a rune of incarnation. And the very main condition for obtaining a rune is to deprive someone in the place where the rune is hidden by pretending to be another person. In the past, this type received the rune of embodiment by taking the life of a girl under the guise of a gloomy sickle. But not this time. The real name of the black dragon on the right hand, Sim Hyun Thek. He is only 15, and he is studying in high school. I laughed 30 to myself. Schoolboy, even a minor. It is unlikely that he would laugh, so if he knew that a couple of hours ago he took life from his classmates. Ruthless and cruel. An ordinary schoolboy is not capable of this. Next, his data was called the dummy, gloomy sickle. Of course, he introduced himself as a stranger, and not all the data was correct. But no one could check. According to the results of the interview, all 3 candidates were suitable for joining the group. And then 30 told me the last condition for joining the community. With a radiant smile, I told me 30 that for this, I need to lose a person's life. This is necessary by its explanation in order to show the whole world their strength, the power of players. Show the government and the people that it is pointless to quarrel with them. Playing his role, Ryu Ming pretended to be scared by the upcoming perspective to destroy someone, but all three in the end agreed. Even the candidate has already found me 30 for this crime. It turned out to be a girl, a waiter from this cafe. After asking her where the toilet was 30, Tomi asked the girl to rearrange his car to another place and handed her the keys. Before she had time to get into the car, as someone's fingers clung to her throat, and they began to crush. It was myself 30, putting a motionless body in the car for me 30, ordered everyone to sit down and drove them to the test. The car drove to some house. I took the girl's body on my shoulders and take me 30. Trinity of candidates followed him. Inside, there was some kind of half-empty warehouse, a great place where no one will hinder them. I put the girl unconscious on the floor and offered me to start Gloomy Sickle. As expected, the imposter agreed, but they were interrupted by Ryu Ming under the guise of Comac and asked to give in the right to deprive the girl of life to him. And then he silently headed forward to the place where the waitress was lying. Courpignon with a grin allowed him to do this. Watching Kuropinpon in the face of Ryu Min noticed that it would be good to use the embodiment of the embodiment. The fraudster did not understand what it was about and demanded explanations. At that very moment, Ryu jumped to Kuropinpon and turned his neck. He died instantly. The one who was watching this was shocked for me. In his opinion, it was precisely the Gloomy Sickle, the strongest player. He was literally hysterical. Meanwhile, Ryu Ming completely calmly took possession of the rune of embodiment. Everything was according to plan. I demanded 30 explanations. Why the mosquito destroyed the Gloomy Sickle. Without extra words, Ryu Ming said that that scoundrel dared to pretend to be. But again, 30 stubbornly did not understand what was the matter. After all, the goal was only a girl. Ryu Ming silently approached her. He put on her a bag on her head so that she inadvertently saw too much and took out her weapon. Obviously, 30 came to me. Seeing the braid, he realized who was a Gloomy Sickle, in fact. And I knelt 30 to my knees, began to pray Ryu Mina about mercy. But Ryu Ming refused, and one movement deprived me of 30 heads. Only a black dragon remained on his right hand, standing nearby and observing all this time silently. Of course, the black dragon on his right hand became very scared. Everyone was afraid of the Gloomy Sickle, but the dragon was not a fool and knew that it was useless to pray for mercy and asked for an answer to just one question. The question was why, at the 4 level, the Gloomy Sickle deprived him of his life several times. It turned out that the Gloomy Sickle restrained him as the main competitor. The dragon is very capable, and then the Gloomy Sickle decided to give a black dragon on his right hand a chance to save. To begin with, he had to lay out everything he had in the inventory. The unlike inventory of the rune gathered fragments of stones, weapons, and so on. The Gloomy Sickle took only the stones of mana. Then the dragon puzzled a lot. He was left almost everything, including weapons. Again and again, the black dragon on the right thanked the Gloomy Sickle, not believing that he really released him. He was ordered to get rid of the body only. Ryu Ming took the girl with him. He lifted it and led it to the exit from the warehouse. There was still a bag on her head. The black dragon, standing behind, felt unjustly punished and suddenly thought that the Gloomy Sickle was now defenseless and could not fight back. This was his chance to raise his characteristics. If you don't risk now, then a black dragon on his right hand will regret this missed chance all his life. And he uncertainly took out his axe. Approaching the Gloomy Sickle behind a black dragon on his right hand, waved. If only he did not turn around. And the dragon struck. The Gloomy Sickle fell with the girl to the floor. The dragon was crazy about joy. Now, all his characteristics will instantly take off to the sky for the humiliation of such a strong player as a Gloomy Sickle. But the messages did not appear. And here is a surprise. Behind him, a whole alive and unharmed, stood Gloomy Sickle grinning. How is it possible? Resurrection. Turning to the place where the body of a Gloomy Sickle lay, a black dragon on his right hand saw only a girl who was still there, but no one else. As it turned out, the dragon destroyed only the clone of the Gloomy Sickle. After all, the rune of embodiment allows you to create an exact copy of the double-double from the original. True, the clone does not have combat abilities. The test has passed. Unlike a black dragon on the arm, Without unnecessary conversations, the gloomy sickle brought his braid and got rid of the insidious interlocutor. Only the ET of traces remains. No one will ever know what happened here. In addition to... Ryu Ming heard the girl's thoughts and knew that she had long been not unconscious. The waitress assured Ryu Mina that everything that happened would remain secret, and no one will ever know any information from her. By the way, she really did not remember anything and did not see anything. When Ryu Min left, the waitress slowly removed the bag from her head and saw that there was completely clean and nobody around, and Ryu himself. Ming hurried home to Ryu Vaughn. My brother was surprised that Ryu Ming took his clothes for a walk. Ryu Ming ignored all his questions and translated the topic for dinner. But the younger brother still did not understand why it was also almost new to throw his clothes. The clothes, although it was pure, the one in which Ryu was today all day, but he will not allow his brother to wear it anymore. And Ryu Ming threw it away despite objections. It's time for his brother to update the wardrobe. Although all the same, Ryu Won has always been sitting at home now. Ryu Ming understood his disorders, but because of such as Sim Hyun Thek no Kazi, it was to go to school or walk alone. And deciding to cheer Ryu Mines, his brother, into the entertainment park. This pretended to be very excited and pleased Ryu Vo. Finally, some kind of diversity. He was tired of sitting at home alone. And now, on the next day, Ryu won, and Ryu Mines stood in the middle of the amusement park. No matter how long ago, they have not been here. Previously, Ryu Ming could not afford to bring her brother here due to problems with finances. Eyes scattered. Where to go first? And Ryu Won paid attention to the souvenir shop. They bought cute ears of panda for Ryu Mina. The youngest wanted to buy everything at once. And of course, Ryu Ming did not refuse him anything. After a small shopping, Ryu Ming and Ryu Vaughn were poisoned directly on the attractions. Ryu Ming with Ryu Vaughn also tried everything that was in the park. Ryu Won was incredibly happy, and it was the most important thing. After all, yesterday Ryu Won was so sad. It's good that they got out for a walk, and then Ryu Won remembered that tomorrow the first number, new round, and they have fun so carelessly. Once again, Ryu Ming assured Ryu Won that he must be returned. Only this time he will fall asleep more than 10 hours, but this is normal, so that the brother does not worry. 10 minutes before the first day, Ryu was a mine from Minji Ri. She encouraged Ryu Mina. It was clear that Ju Ri is nervous, but this is in vain. Ryu Ming will protect her. So the new round began again. The players were postponed. Again, a new place, some kind of field. It seemed to players that this time there were very few people compared to the beginning. But the gloomy sickle knew that after the union would cease to seem so. This time the angel was not long in coming. According to her, 422 surviving players are called up. 80 people from reality disappeared again. With a mysterious grin, the angel noticed that it was not enough for a normal game of people. Therefore, there will be a combination of areas. Not everyone at once even understood what it means. The players demanded explanations. She irritably explained that in this country, 857 areas, and they will be divided on one game field. The players began to guess that if every region has its own angel and there are so many of them, obviously not they came up with the game. Such thoughts made an angel in earnest, and she noticed with threats that they should not poke their nose in their own business and ask unnecessary questions. But judging by how the angel leaves the answer, the players got to the point. Apparently, it is forbidden to disclose information about the creator. In addition, the angels, which can be destroyed even by players, could hardly create such a large-scale survival game. No, they are just pawns. The earth began to shake. The players were afraid that the earthquake began. Everything shone. The fiery squares of the earth were separated from each other, and new players appeared in these squares. The unification is completed. All players were together. How property and their mentors are angels. The angels were now 10. Accordingly, 10 regions merged into one, not all 10. Now, the players were Chvelayar, thousands of 844 people. Now this area is called 007. And in this area, players only from Korea, therefore, can communicate freely in the same language. Of course, this is not the last unit. This will happen every time players will become less than 500, and when the players from Korea stay less than 500, we'll have to unite them with players from other countries. But this will slope only in the 11th round. The angels ended explanation. It's time to move on to the point. Before starting the round, it was decided to hold an additional game. Since before representatives of the regions, it was before 10 should be left alone. The conditions of the game are simple. These 10 players go on the battlefield and fight until only one will stay alive. Most of the representatives have already sorry for their role, and the rest of the players were looking forward to an interesting sight. Only the popcorn is missing. Previously, representatives did not have any special advantages. But in this round, everything will change. Be sure to win in a duel and become a representative of the regional area. However, the angel noticed that again, at the end of the game, all dead representatives would resurrect. So don't worry so much, it was a relief for some. The incentive to win was still high. The winner and the new representative will receive the right of dominance. He will be able to subjugate all players of a lower level. Restriction of 10 use and the right to transfer power in force. And also it remains to choose the leading angel. There were no volunteers. Apparently the work did not seduce them too much. Absolutely no one wanted to work more than others, and then one of the angels proposed an option. What the ward will survive the last that will be the main angel. Everyone liked the idea. The angel whose representative will survive will become a queen. Everyone will obey her, and obey in everything. The mentor of the gloomy sickle suggested that the mentor suggested. The struggle for the right to be a representative of the region began. The angel convened all representatives to himself. The mentor created a 100th battlefield, by type of arena. If someone perishes beyond its borders, will not be able to revive. So it's pointless to run. So it's time to start the main thing. Everyone was confident in themselves, but no one was in a hurry to attack first. It enraged angels. Why everyone is standing. And now, one of them decided to show his strength and authority and immediately chose the victim of a gloomy sickle. But he did not immediately understand what exactly the sickle in front of him. And when he saw his confidence evaporated. Before him stood the first gloomy sickle player in the general rating of the 30th level. And the angel of this coward became even ashamed. At this time, the angels quarreled among themselves. Everyone considered his representative the best. They almost fought. The most impudent was Olive, whose representative was a gloomy sickle. Literally a moment, and gloomy sickle deprived his opponent's head. The rest did not know what to do now. Attack a crowd, or one by one. While they thought the sickle moved in their direction, they were numb. But the gloomy sickle did not even have to do anything. All representatives, as one, raised their hand, surrendering. How sorry it looked. The angels were furious, and threats forced the players to fight. It looks like the only thing that remains is all together. But the gloomy sickle considered them all of the VSGO only ants, and grinned. It was angry with the rest. 8 players converged and attacked a calmly standing gloomy sickle at once.